The mist that clung to the Ares' pale courtyards tasted of lingering winter, a brittle, almost metallic tang carried down from the giant's lance. Jon Arryn leaned upon the stone balustrade that ringed the moon door's outer terrace, breathing deeply, savoring the cold bite in his lungs. 3 moons had passed since the maester's leeching and drafts had broken the fever that should have killed him. 3 moons since Maester Coleman had wept beside his bedside, believing the old man's fading pulse was the last toll of House Arryn's final bell. Yet Jon Arryn still lived, gaunt, fingers shaking when he tried to lace the ties of his fur-lined mantle, but alive all the same, and with his mind clearer than it had been in years. He turned from the balustrade to find young Robert, his poor, frail son, perched on a cushioned settle by the hearth, struggling to lift a wooden falcon no larger than his own gangly forearm. The child's face was flushed scarlet with the effort. "Fly," he insisted in a breathless voice. "Fly for me, Ser Elbert." The name stung. Elbert Arryn's smile, Jon's bright nephew, executed by the Mad King, flashed across Jon's thoughts. Jon crossed the terrace, lowered himself beside the boy, and guided Robert's thin arms. Gently, a falcon needs a soft cast, lest its wings break against the wind. Together they arced the toy through the smoky air. Robert giggled as it wobbled, then clattered at their feet. Jon ruffled the child's pale hair, hearing the soft rattle in the boy's lungs that no maester's syrup could banish. The kingdom teetered on the edge of peril, and here was his legacy, a single fragile life. "Father," Robert whispered, peeking up with watery eyes, "will the Vale be safe when we go to King's Landing?" "We will see to it." Jon rose, steadying himself against the settle. The hand must return to his king. He felt Coleman's anxious stare from the doorway, yet Coleman said nothing. The maester had learned that the Lord of the Ares' will was iron once set, and Jon Arryn's decision had been forged soon after the fever broke. He would ride south, stand again at Robert Baratheon's side, and pry open the secret he had uncovered in the dust of old ledgers, a secret he now knew beyond any doubt. He could still picture the moment clarity struck, hunched over a candlelit desk in the Ares Solar, poring through brittle genealogies. Names and sigils swam before him. Lannister crimson, Baratheon gold, Stark gray. Columns of descent, marriages, issue. And there amid the sea of inks, the handwriting of a forgotten septon recorded. Ser Lionel Lannister, golden-haired, blue-eyed, wed to Lady Jane Marbrand. Line after line, generation after generation, every child of Lannister seed bore the same hallmark. Fair hair, eyes of cerulean or emerald, never brown. Yet Robert's heir Joffrey had hair the color of beaten gold. Yes, but eyes like his mother's, too green by half. And Myrcella's were even greener, while Tommen's were emerald pools, untouched by the Baratheon strain that lent Robert and Renly their night-dark locks. Bastard children take after their father more often than not, he remembered thinking, a chill sliding down his spine even then. He recalled Gendry, the sturdy boy in Tobo Mott's forge, Robert's features stamped upon him as clearly as the stag upon a newly cast coin. Gendry's eyes were the same deep blue, his hair a tumble of ink. Tommen possessed none of it. The truth was a blade honed too sharp to ignore, and Jon Arryn would speak it aloud. The high road snaked beneath them in a thin ribbon of slate, treacherous as a viper's back. A handful of Arryn household knights formed the van while 50 men-at-arms rode in pairs behind Jon's covered litter, airy curtains drawn to prevent his lungs from choking on mountain dust. Beside the litter trotted Ser Hugh of the Vale, once Jon's own squire, now newly made knight, his plate polished to a looking-glass shine. "Drink," Hugh asked, offering a leather skin through the curtain. Jon accepted a mouthful, cool water tinged with mint. "When we reach the Mummer's Ford, send riders ahead to Riverrun. The Tullus must hear I journey under the king's peace." Hugh bowed his head. "As you command, my lord. And once we are beneath the city walls, then we shall need quiet allies," Jon murmured. "My wife's kin at Riverrun, certainly, and Eddard Stark. The king listens to Ned's counsel even before mine these days." Ned Stark, a man of carved stone, yet one whose honor had never fissured. Jon's own fosterling, as dear as any son. If Ned held the proof in his palm, he would not hesitate to act, even should it rip House Lannister from the heart of the realm. That thought soothed Jon's fevered anxiety. The litter swayed. The curtain parted. Maester Coleman peered in. "Rest, my lord. You do yourself no favors rehearsing speeches." Jon laughed softly. "A man nearing 60 has few favors left to squander, my friend." Beyond the litter's flap, the giant's lance dwindled behind them, its sword-edge peaks gleaming against a sky-scrubbed cobalt. Jon watched until the mountains blurred with distance, until the Eyrie was but a sliver of white marble impossibly distant, and within him something tightened like new wire wound around old bone. He had not admitted to the maester, nor even to Lisa, the crushing dread he felt each time he coughed blood into a square of linen. The sickness had abated, yes, but his strength was halved. His heart beat oddly now, as though it had learned some stumbling dance. This would be his final journey, he suspected. All the more reason his words must reach Robert intact. They passed through the towns of the Fingers, where gulls circled fishmonger stalls and children gawked at the Vale banners. Jon insisted on short stops. An hour for Robert Arryn to stretch his legs, another for Ser Donnell Waynwood to drill the men. But at Maidenpool he allowed himself a full night behind sturdy timber walls. It was there, as starlight gleamed upon the quiet isle beyond the bay, that a raven alighted upon the Lord's solar window. Jon broke the wax with trembling fingers. The message was penned in quick, sprawling script that smelled of lampblack and haste. "My Lord Arryn, King Robert hunts boar near the Blackwater Rush. A fortnight past he left the city with Lord Renly, Ser Selmy, and a dozen retainers. The Queen Consort remains at court, her movements guarded. Varys confides the king grows restless, and Grand Maester Pycelle fears a chill in his lungs. I await your counsel." Eddard's hand. Jon traced the loops of the final letter. So Ned was already circling the enigma, though perhaps he did not yet grasp its fangs. Coleman hovered by the chamber's hearth. The maester's concern was a living thing. Bad news. Only further proof that time is a sword at my throat. We must press on. But we have come scarcely. Press on. Thus they rode at dawn before the fishermen stoked their nets. By evening's fall they reached the Trident's crossing at Lord Harroway's town. Rain slicked the fields. Thunder grumbled across the low sky. Jon Arryn lay propped against pillows, the litter's curtains flung aside to admit what little breeze stirred. He watched water beat upon the spear haft of the knight riding nearest. The steel caps of men glistened like black pearls, their horses' flanks steaming. He thought again of the secret, thought of Robert's fury, a storm that could topple thrones and bury innocence beneath collapsed walls. If the king learned his beloved children were the fruit of incest, the 7 kingdoms might drown in stagborn wrath. Jon pictured the queen's face. Proud, lion fierce, lips curving in disdain when last they spoke. She would not go quietly. And behind her loomed Tywin Lannister, gold and iron mingled, his armies disciplined, his coffers deep. Had he the right to shatter the realm's peace? Jon's teacher as a boy, old Ser Ardy Stone, used to say, "If truth can fracture a sword, it was a brittle sword to begin with." The 7 kingdoms were brittle indeed. Yet Jon Arryn had lived his life by a single creed: the realm before the Lord. He would not betray it now. The gold cloaks at the River Gate of King's Landing recognized the falcon banners at once, though few had expected their lord so soon. Captain Bywater himself escorted the litter as far as the Street of Silk, where perfumed courtesans tossed rose petals over Robert Arryn's simple wagon, waving scented scarves at Ser Hugh's gleaming armor. The stench of the city struck Jon like a mailed fist. Horse dung, brackish water, sweat, and a sickly sweet undertone of something rotting. He swallowed bile. The Red Keep's towers stabbed the sky ahead, crimson banners snapping in the breeze, lit by the ruddy glow of sunset. "Announce me to Lord Stark," Jon told the captain hoarsely. "Tell him I come laden with urgent tidings." They entered by the gate of the gods at twilight. Rains had scoured the stones earlier. Puddles mirrored the torches. Hugh leapt down and opened the litter. Jon Arryn stepped out under his own power, though his knees wobbled. He felt the eyes of the gold cloaks on him, some pitying, some surprised that the hand who had vanished north to the Eyrie 3 years past still drew breath. A hush fell when Eddard Stark emerged from the torchlit tunnel. The Lord of Winterfell wore a wolf-trim cloak, gray as dawn light on a tomb. He strode forward and knelt before Jon Arryn, not in fealty but in filial warmth. "Uncle," Ned's voice cracked. "I feared the worst when the raven from the Eyrie spoke of your illness." Jon clasped his forearm. "My worst will come if we fail this night. Walk with me." Together they climbed the serpentine stairs to the Tower of the Hand, abandoned since Jon's departure. Cobwebs draped carved griffins. Dust filmed the mahogany desk where once he had drafted orders for the Crownlands. Ned dismissed the guards and servants. Only Maester Coleman remained, unpacking scrolls. Jon lowered himself onto a cushioned chair, chest fluttering. He drew from his mantle a leather-bound volume, edges worn, the lineages and histories of the great houses of the 7 kingdoms. He set it atop the desk. "Read the passages I have marked," he whispered. Ned turned pages gently, eyes narrowing. Minutes crawled. Rain began anew, thrumming against shuttered casements. Finally Ned looked up, face bleak. "You are certain?" "As certain as snow is cold. Robert's trueborn heirs do not share his blood." Ned raked fingers through grizzled hair. "If this is true, the Queen has committed high treason. The children are innocent." Jon's voice was iron. "But they cannot sit the throne." Ned's jaw clenched. "Proof beyond markings in an old book?" Jon slid a strip of parchment across the desk. A royal warrant bearing Robert's seal, authorizing a tourney at Whitewalls 2 years prior. Note the signatures of the king's bastards who came forward to claim prizes. Each holds traits nigh identical to Robert himself. Compare them to Joffrey, to Tommen. Ned exhaled a heavy breath. "And the king? I will lay it before him at first light. You must stand at my side." A distant thunderclap echoed, or perhaps it was the roar of a lion. That night Jon Arryn did not sleep. He walked window to window, gazing down at blackened rooftops, the flicker of thousands of hearth fires. Every so often he pressed a hand to his heart as if to still its uneven rhythm. At dawn Ned returned, gray with fatigue. "The king rests at his hunting camp 2 leagues south. We ride at once." Jon smiled faintly. "Then let us ride." Ser Hugh came in full harness, helm under his arm. Maester Coleman bundled vials of tincture into a satchel. Yet before they could quit the tower, footsteps pounded outside, the clatter of hurried feet. The door flew open. A bald man in lavender robes slipped inside, his smile oily, his eyes black pearls. Varys the Spider. "My lords," the eunuch cooed, bowing low, "I bring grave tidings. The king, our gallant Robert, is grievously wounded. A boar's tusk, they say, pierced his belly. He lingers yet." Ned's face turned ashen. Jon's thoughts spiraled. If Robert died before they reached him— "We leave now," Jon barked. Varys lifted a delicate hand. "Alas, the queen has ordered the castle gates sealed to all save her own men." Ned drew ice from thin air. "On whose authority?" "On the authority of the Queen Regent." Varys' smile did not reach his eyes. "She means to protect the king's rest." Coleman whispered. "She means to silence us." Jon Arryn's pulse hammered. He saw, suddenly, the branching paths. Speak now and risk blades in shadowed halls, or hesitate and lose the only chance. The choice was no choice at all. He straightened, summoning the voice that had once quelled rebellious lords in the Vale. "Lord Varys, inform her grace that the hand of the king commands her presence in the throne room at midday. We shall present matters of utmost import before the Iron Throne itself. Should she refuse, I will proclaim my findings to the assembled lords of the court." Varys fluttered his sleeves. "A bold trumpet, my lord. Yet sometimes a lioness will strike at the trumpet's bearer before the realm can hear the note." "Let her strike," Jon said, though he felt his heart falter. Ned placed a steady hand upon Jon's shoulder. We stand together. Midday's bells tolled as the throne room's vast doors groaned open. Scores of banners hung limp in the still air. Tyrell rose, Baratheon's stag, Martell's sun and spear. But crimson Lannister velvets draped the dais in thick swathes. Jon Arryn crossed the echoing floor, his boots sounding weak. Ned flanked him to the left. Ser Donnell, Ser Hugh, and 24 men-at-arms followed behind. The queen awaited atop the Iron Throne. Cersei Lannister wore mourning black with a necklace of red gold, her emerald eyes shining with cautioned fury. Beside her stood Ser Jaime, his white cloak immaculate, his smile thin, a lion unsheathed. Sandor Clegane lurked nearby, hunched, helm tucked beneath one massive arm. Lord Arryn, the queen greeted, each syllable cold jewel. We are astonished by your recovery. The Seven must favor you. I serve the realm, Jon replied, bowing. I grieve to hear of the king's wound. The king rests, the maesters attend him. Cersei's gaze flicked to Ned. Lord Stark, your presence is equally curious. Jon forced a breath through thorns. Your grace, I come bearing knowledge that cannot wait. It concerns succession. Jaime's fingertips brushed the hilt of his sword. Succession. Ned unfurled the leather-bound volume. Its cracked spine groaned. Your grace, the blood of the king runs dark of hair, yet your children. Cersei's smile flashed fangs. Speak carefully, Lord Stark. Jon stepped forward, voice steady. I speak of treason. The heirs you present are not of Robert Baratheon's line. The throne's true succession must be secured. Silence swallowed the hall. Then Jaime drew steel in a rasp of metal. Sandor's helm slid on with an iron clank. Behind Jon, the Falcon Knights flared their cloaks, blades half out. Cersei rose from the throne, golden hair spilling over black velvet like molten sunlight over a sea of night. You dare to call my children bastards? I name only the truth. You name your doom, the queen whispered. Jon felt the world tilt. Pain seared his chest, sharp as a knife. He glanced down. No blade protruded. Instead, his own heart rebelled, jerking in arrhythmia. His vision narrowed to a ring of flickering torchlight around Cersei's dark silhouette. Maester Coleman cried out. Jon's knees buckled. Ned caught him as he fell. Seize them all, Cersei commanded. Chaos erupted, steel rang. Men shouted, but Jon heard only the drumming of blood in his ears. He clutched Ned's collar. Protect the king. Tell Robert. Ned's eyes shone with tears. Hold, uncle. Hold. Yet Jon Arryn felt his grip slipping, as though the moon door yawned beneath him. He saw Robert's laughing face, the tawny fields of their youth, the snows of Winterfell when Ned was but a boy, his own nephew's smile bright as dawn. He heard Lisa singing softly in the Aerys' airy halls, and he knew with the awful calm of the dying that he would not see the falcon soar again. But the truth was free now, let loose upon the throne room's stone floor like a torch rolled into dry straw. Even if the queen stamped it under heel, sparks would fly. Truth's flames, once kindled, found cracks in every wall. His last breath carried a whisper. The realm, remember? Darkness, soft as arrhythmic wings, closed around Jon Arryn. Ned Stark's sword clanged against Jaime's. Ser Hugh's bright helm crumpled beneath the hound's hammer blow. The throne room echoed with the screams of courtiers scattering like songbirds before a wildfire. Above, crimson banners stirred, disturbed by the storm building inside the Red Keep. And somewhere beyond those high vaults, a king lay bleeding in a scented pavilion, unaware that his hand had lived long enough to cast a single stone into a pond whose ripples would drown kingdoms. Outside, rain hammered the castle walls. It washed the blood in thin red tributaries between the flagstones, but could not cleanse the sin now written across the realm, nor quell the thunderous roar of a secret, at last unbound. Ned Stark's sword rang again against Jaime Lannister's, the clang echoing off vaulted stone and iron spikes. Sparks flashed where ice-damped steel clashed, bright fireflies briefly illuminating faces twisted with dread. Jaime fought with insolent grace, every parry accompanied by a half-smile that mocked Ned's labored breathing. Yet even the Kingslayer's smile wavered when Ser Donnell Waynwood joined Ned, blade sweeping down in a two-handed arc that drove Jaime back 3 paces across the scarlet carpet laid for royal audiences. To their left, Ser Hugh crumpled, the hound's spiked morning star erupting through the young knight's gorget in a wet bloom of blood. Hugh's polished breastplate caught torchlight as he fell, reflecting it like a shattered mirror. Men-at-arms cried out, some in horror, some in rage. One of Jon Arryn's falcon banners went down beneath a press of gold cloaks who were no longer sure whose orders they followed. Above, rain battered tall windows, a dull drumbeat to accompany the slaughter. At the dais, Queen Cersei remained standing, lips parted, one hand white-knuckled around a gilded scepter she had taken from a trembling herald. Her children were nowhere within sight, save Tommen, perhaps, asleep in the nursery, and Joffrey in his chambers drinking sweet wine by the gallon, and Myrcella weeping behind her maid's skirts. The Queen's emerald gaze tracked every movement, calculating alliances, gauging the speed of blade and body. Jaime backed toward her, fending off Ned and Waynwood in turn. His white cloak was slashed, the lion embroidered upon it furled by sword cuts. The Clegane brute advanced, swatting aside Arryn men 2 at a time. Then the great doors banged open again. A gust of storm air blew half the torches dead. Into the gloom marched the city watch, 80 gold cloaks with pikes leveled and torch staves raised. At their head strode Janos Slynt, face slick with rain, black hair plastered to his brow. He took in the carnage, the dead or dying knights. The hand of the king collapsed motionless at Ned's feet, crimson spreading beneath his silvered beard. "Stand your weapons," Slynt roared, voice carrying in the sudden hush. The nearest Arryn guard hesitated. The hound's morning star dripped. Jaime Lannister straightened, breathing hard. Queen Cersei's lips curved. "By command of the Queen Regent," Slynt declared, "Lord Eddard Stark and all companions are hereby placed under royal custody." "By command of the king," Ned answered. "You will clear a path and escort me to his grace's pavilion. The hand is dead, the realm imperiled. Choose your allegiance, Captain." Slynt's eyes flicked toward the Queen, brief, but enough. "Take them," he barked, pikes lowered. The Falcon Knights cried, "For the Vale," and rushed forward. Ned shoved Jon Arryn's body into Coleman's arms, feeling the terrible weight of the old man's lifeless form. "Take him to the Tower of the Hand," he said. The maester nodded, tears streaking his cheeks, and 2 squires lifted the body onto a cloak serving as litter. Chaos again. Steel met steel, screams ripped the smoky air. Ned and Waynwood fought back to back, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. Gold cloaks hemmed them, shields interlocked. Ned saw Ser Donnell take a spear through his mail and sag. He felt a pike but crash into his knee, forcing him down. Another slammed his helm, ringing his ears. He swung ice in a wide arc that split a man from collar to sternum, but more pressed in. Jaime's laughter drifted. "Eilt, stark. Dead men cannot guard secrets." Ned bared his teeth. "Only the guilty fear them." "Enough." Cersei's voice cut through the din. "Spare his life. He may yet serve." Ned felt hands wrench ice away, arms pinned behind. Blood seeped into his eye, hot and sticky. Around him, Arryn men lay in widening pools. He counted 7 still breathing, fewer every heartbeat. When at last his captors forced him to kneel, the throne room floor was slick with tacky crimson that smelled of iron and rain. Cersei descended the steps, gown whispering. She stopped an arm's length away, studying the northern lord like a spider inspecting a fly. "You should have stayed in Winterfell. You should have kept your vows," Ned rasped. Her palm struck his cheek, a crack louder than thunder. "Your gallantry dies here," she whispered. "Take him to the black cells." Jaime's gauntlet hand clamped Ned's shoulder. With pleasure, they dragged him away, swordless, limping, past toppled torches and the ruin of men who had believed honor could shield against lions. Behind them, Jon Arryn's blood cooled on the stones he had once trod as hand. Outside, lightning forked above Blackwater Bay, illuminating the Red Keep's ramparts in white blaze. The storm had only just begun. The black cells beneath Maegor's holdfast were deeper than even stories claimed. Ned smelled mold and damp straw long before the torch that guided him guttered out, leaving him in near blackness broken only by a faint green glow from high vents where the storm's lightning briefly flashed. Rats scurried as the guards slammed iron-barred doors, locking the Lord of Winterfell behind corroded hinges. Pain throbbed in his knee where the pike had struck. His wrists were bound with coarse hemp that chafed raw. He eased himself against a wall, inhaled damp stone, and thought of Catelyn's letters from the Eyrie, of Sansa's delighted accounts of court life, of Arya's restless complaints. He pictured Robb, tall and untested, seated in Winterfell's hall with a direwolf at his side, unaware his father might never return. Jon Arryn's voice seemed to echo still. Protect the king. Tell Robert. Yet Robert Baratheon lay somewhere beyond these walls, bleeding gut pierced by boar. If he died before Ned could reach him, Joffrey would ascend, and the Queen's victory would be complete. Lightning flared once more, bathing the cell in ghostly green. Ned saw movement, slow, almost furtive, beyond the bars. The faint scratch of soft shoes. Then a wisp of breathy laughter. "Lord Stark," came Varys's silky whisper. "Storms make for restless nights. Might a friend visit?" Ned said nothing, eyes narrowing. The key turned. The door creaked. The eunuch's perfume overpowered mold, lilac and cloves. Varys crouched near. "I grieve for Lord Arryn. His passing was regrettably timely, regrettably convenient. As you say." Varys produced a small flask. "Will you drink? Milk of the poppy, mixed with something milder for bruises. I will keep my wits. Commendable. Wits are in short supply." Varys's tones fluttered like a moth to candlelight. "I come bearing rumors. The king clings to life by threads. Grand Maester Pycelle plies him with wine heavy enough to drown a horse. The queen sits vigil, cupbearer and nurse both. Poison. A boar's tusk made the wound, or so they claim. But poppy and strong wine ease pain and cloud thought. Should Robert name a regent or a protector, would he recall it come morning? Perhaps." Varys tilted his head. "If he lives to see morning." Ned's fists tightened. "You will bring him my words. I am but a whisperer." "You can whisper to him," Ned snarled. "Tell him his hand was murdered for seeking truth. Tell him his children's lineage is in doubt." Varys sighed. "Lords who shout treason lose their heads. Spiders who whisper it lose their webs. Yet perhaps there is another path. Parchment. Robert painted by your own quill. He will not see parchment penned by a prisoner. Not if the queen watches. But she must sleep sometime." Varys glanced back toward the corridor. "There are hidden ways, forgotten by most. I might place your plea where the king's eyes fall." Ned hesitated. Honor tugged one direction, pragmatism another. "Do so, and fetch Ser Barristan. That old knight shares Robert's heart." "I shall try, but you must pen quickly." From his sleeve Varys produced writing implements. A slate of thin bark, an iron-tipped stylus, a vial of dark ink smelling of river mud. "I can promise nothing beyond delivery." He rose, slipping keys back into folds. "When the storm ends, so too shall opportunity." He vanished as silently as he came, leaving Ned alone with dripping walls and the impossible task of saving a dying king from a kingdom already aflame. The Queen's ballroom, once host to gleaming revels, now resembled a field pavilion. Map tables replaced dance floors, covered in tokens of stag, lion, sun, rose, and kraken. Torches hissed in sconces. Renly Baratheon paced the margins, green cloak swirling. He had returned from the hunt a half-day behind Robert, having ridden hard at first word of the king's wound. His eyes were rimmed red, whether from wind or grief none could say. Cersei watched him from the dais, flanked by Pycelle and Littlefinger like serpents loyal to her warmth. Her face wore polished calm, but a pulse beat visibly at her throat. "The king must name an heir," Renly pressed, leaning over the maps. "He must affirm the line of succession while breath remains." At best, he decree Joffrey's coronation in your presence and that of witnesses. His grace rests, Pycelle croaked. To disturb him might prove fatal. A chill sets in his lungs. A chill of your leech-filled potions, perhaps, Renly snapped. Fetch the Maester of Storm's End if Pycelle's apothecary cannot cure a cut. Littlefinger smirked. Storm's End lies leagues away. The king may not have so long.
No, Cersei murmured.
He may not. Thus we must shield him from unnecessary noise. She met Renly's gaze unflinching. His heir is decided. The younger Baratheon folded arms. You would enthrone Joffrey without the king's clear consent? The consent of a father is written in the birth of his son. Renly's laugh was bitter. You cannot sway me with talk of birthrights while Eddard Stark lies shackled for daring to speak of bastards. Pycelle wheezed protest. Cersei's eyes narrowed to emerald slits. Mind your next words. Renly looked around, no allies. Ser Loras Tyrell stood by the doors, hand on pommel, but Tyrell men were far fewer than gold cloaks. Renly bowed stiffly. I shall petition the council again at dawn. If his grace is unable, the realm must not drift into uncertainty. He strode away, cloak snapping, Loras at his heel. Cersei exhaled through clenched teeth. Lord Baelish, she murmured. Speak plainly. How secure are the gates? Littlefinger's fingers toyed with a green gemstone pin. Gold cloaks hold each post. Slint's loyalty is purchased. Yet coin buys company, not devotion. Fear buys silence but seldom love. Love is for songs. Cersei lifted her scepter. Remove Stark's head and all fear he inspires dies with him. Baelish's smile flickered. Perhaps. Yet his daughter Sansa remains betrothed to Joffrey. Her tears wield curious power over the boy, and his son Robb commands Winterfell's levies. A northern host descending upon the capital would strain every purse. The queen tapped the scepter to her lips. Then Stark's fate waits upon politics. For now keep him breathing, but shackled, muzzled, unseen. As you wish, Baelish bowed. Outside thunder rolled, punctuated by distant horns. Somewhere beyond the walls, Renly held whispered counsel with Loras, plotting roads that might lead to Highgarden, Storm's End, or further treachery. And on Dragonstone, Stannis Baratheon watched black clouds mass across the narrow sea, studying ravens that spoke of succession undone. In the dim cell, Ned Stark scratched ink onto bark with trembling hand while torchlight flickered. His message was simple, dire, pleading, Robert, I write from chains. Jon Arryn is dead, slain for truth. Your children are not of your blood. Queen and lions conspire. Name me Lord Protector. Call your loyal lords. Trust Ser Barristan. Trust Renly. Beware the queen's wine. Eddard. He rolled the strip, tying with thread from his tunic. When Varys returned, so silent a rat did not stir. Ned pressed it into the eunuch's palm. Now fly, he urged. Spiders crawl, not fly, the whisperer answered. But crawl we shall. Hours crawled after his departure.
Ned rested fitfully, thoughts snarling.
He dreamed of Sean Bean's face in a snow-swept courtyard, but woke to feet splashing in puddles outside the bars. Keys rattled. Not Varys's delicate picks, these clanked brutal. The door screeched inward. 2 gold cloaks hauled him upright. Lord Stark, one spat. The queen commands your presence. They forced him through corridors dripping with runoff from the storm, up winding stairs, into a chamber warm with braziers. There stood Ser Barristan Selmy, his white armor gleaming faintly, sword unsheathed across both hands. A silent sentinel. At his side, Varys folded hands into voluminous sleeves. On a camp bed, Robert Baratheon lay propped by pillows, face waxen, belly wrapped in blood-stained linens. His eyes half-lidded, breath shallow. Cersei perched at bedside, spoon poised above his lips. What is this? She hissed when guards ushered Ned. My queen, Varys said. His grace asked for Lord Stark. Cersei's glare could have cut stone. Yet Robert's fingers twitched, groping as though searching for antlers lost in fog. Ned, he croaked. "I am here, Robert," Ned said, voice hoarse. He kneeled despite his shackles clank, ignoring pain. The king's eyes focused with effort. "I rode you hard," he whispered. "Forgive. Boar got the best of me." "You will recover," Ned lied. "Maesters will mend you."
Rot.
Robert managed a smile ghostly thin. "Too deep. Listen," wrote a command.
Seal.
He fumbled weakly at his bedside table. Ser Barristan lifted a parchment bearing the royal stag. He looked to Ned. "Take it," Robert rasped. "Protector. Realm. Renly rides, call him back." "Joff." He coughed, blood frothing at the corner of his mouth. "Let my son succeed. Guide him. Keep him from folly." Ned's heart twisted.
Son.
Robert believed still, yet the queen's gaze drilled into him. Speak truth here and now? Risk the king's fury in his final hour? Or accept the duty and fight for truth later? He laid a hand over Robert's. "I will protect the realm with all I am." The king sagged. "Good lad." His eyes drifted. "Lyanna." The lids closed. Cersei set the spoon down. She rose. "The king needs rest. Come, Lord Stark. Let us secure his decree." Barristan held the parchment. He read, brow furrowing. "It names Eddard Stark as Lord Protector until rightful heir comes of age." Cersei's hand darted, snatching the page. Her eyes flicked over lines. "You amended this," she breathed. "It once said, 'My son Joffrey.' You changed it to 'rightful heir.'" Ned met her stare. The king's words, as he spoke them. Her lips peeled back. "Guards." Ser Barristan stepped forward, voice edged with steel. "Her grace must not shred a royal command." Cersei's gaze burned. Yet for a heartbeat she measured the aged knight's resolve and Ned's chains, and chose caution. She loosened her grip. "The small council will decide." "Indeed," Ned answered. "Summon them at once." Cersei glided out, velvet rustling. Gold cloaks pushed Ned after. In the hall, Littlefinger awaited, fingers steepled. "This game grows perilous," he murmured. "Might I guide you to safer bets?" "No more games, Baelish. That is every man's wish when he realizes he is losing." The sly smile returned. "Yet games continue without our consent." Night slipped into pre-dawn gloom. Bells tolled across the city. Slow, mournful. Robert Baratheon breathed his last as dawn's first light brushed the tower's rosy gold. By sunrise, ravens burst forth. "The king is dead. Long live the king." Within the hour, the queen moved. Castle gates barred, city watch doubled. Ravens to Casterly Rock and Old Town. In the throne room, Joffrey Baratheon strutted in black mourning silk, golden hair brushed till it shone. He perched upon the iron throne, hands trembling yet eyes bright with cruel delight. Pycelle intoned lineage. Baelish oversaw signatures. Slint stood with his gold cloaks. The hound towered near. But the court that filled the hall whispered uncertainty. Renly was gone, vanished with Loras before dawn's first horn. Stannis was missing from council, rumored on his isle. Tywin Lannister was days away with armies. And Eddard Stark limped forward, still bound at wrists, flanked by two unsmiling knights of the Kingsguard, Ser Meryn Trant and Ser Boros Blunt. Joffrey rose when Ned reached the dais. "Lord Stark," the boy announced, voice cracking. "You kneel before your king." Ned remained upright. "I serve the realm, per the king's own decree, sealed last night. I am Lord Protector until..." Cersei stepped into view beside the throne, parchment in hand, its wax seal broken. "This decree..." She tore it in half, then quarters. "And thus..." Gasps rippled. Joffrey smirked like a viperlet. "A paper shield cannot guard you." Ned's pulse thundered. "By what right do you set aside Robert's command?" "By the right of a king's blood," Cersei answered, "and the council's assent." Her gaze swept the chamber, daring dissent. None came. Littlefinger's smile thin, Pycelle's chain clinking, Varys's eyes downcast. "Seize him," Joffrey ordered. Knights advanced. Ned looked to Ser Barristan, old, proud, who stood unmoving, sorrow etched in lines about his mouth. Their eyes met. The old knight did not look away, but neither did he lift his blade. Alone, Meryn Trant wrenched Ned's arms. Pain lanced his wounded knee. Chains bit his wrists. Cersei's voice floated, triumphant. In the dungeons he shall reflect on treason. But as guards turned him, a roar thundered through the corridors. A rolling boom of iron-shod boots shouted commands. The throne room doors flew open a second time in as many days, and a wind of steel swept in. In marched men of the north, gray cloaks sodden, mail rust-flecked from rain, but swords keen. They filled the aisle 36 Umber, Manderly, and Karstark retinues led by Hallis Malin bearing the direwolf banner. They had raced south with Robb's blessing, arriving on the King's Road 2 nights prior, too late to enter the city before gates closed, but not too late to bribe dockhands and scale forgotten posterns. The court recoiled. The gold cloaks formed a shield wall, pikes out. Rabar Royce, traveling with Lord Renly but separated, strode among northern men, a falcon and crescent engraved upon his breast. The Vale had not forgotten its lord either. Cersei's smile froze. Joffrey shrank upon jagged metal. Hallis's voice boomed. Ned Stark, by word of your son Robb, we come to escort you home. Step aside. Pikes wavered. Slint shouted orders. The Hound laughed, gripping his massive greatsword. But the northern men were fresh, hearts burning with purpose. Bloodshed loomed again. Yet before the first blade fell, Varys's shrill cry cut through. Hold! Hear me! All eyes turned to the eunuch perched atop a pillar's base. Lords and ladies, Varys called. Ravens from Dragonstone bear solemn tidings. Lord Stannis Baratheon, by law of primogeniture, claims the Iron Throne and calls all true men to his banner. He names the late king's supposed issue falseborn of incest. He brandishes proof. Silence struck sharper than swords. Ned's heart leapt, truth alive. But tension coiled anew. Now a third claimant. Cersei regained voice first. Stannis is a traitor. His ravens carry lies. Do they? Varys asked softly. Sealed within is the genealogy of houses Baratheon and Lannister, annotated by the late Jon Arryn himself. He produced a parchment scroll black-ribboned. Would your grace care to refute? Cersei's cheeks flushed. Burn that filth, Joffrey shouted, voice cracking. Seize the spider! Gold cloaks surged, but Varys darted behind northern lines, scroll raised safely. You risk silencing proof witnessed by Jon Arryn, highest hand of the realm. The Vale stands for truth, he gestured to Rabar Royce. As does the North and Storm's End, if renown holds. Doors banged again. Another column entered. Tall knights with suns upon spears, orange cloaks swirling. Prince Oberyn Martell led them, eyes gleaming amusement. You forget Dorne, sweet queen, he purred. We, too, value parentage. Targaryen blood once flowed south, you recall. His gaze flicked to Ned. And vengeance. The hall became a forge as alliances melted, rehammered in minutes. Cersei's face drained. She gripped Joffrey's arm. Littlefinger stepped forward, hands raised. Lords, perhaps a parley before further blood? The realm bleeds already. Let ink and words decide one night more. Oberyn laughed softly. Hallis Malin grunted assent. Varys held the scroll like a lit taper waiting to catch draperies. Ned Stark straightened despite bonds. Hear me. Release me and my men. I will depart for Winterfell under safe conduct. Take no part in this war of crowns. Let the claimants meet at council with evidence in hand. Cersei almost smiled at that. Wolf gone north, lions free to roar. But Joffrey sprang up, adolescent fury ugly.
No.
I will not be mocked by traitors. Kill the Northmen. Feed Stark to the crows. A sharp sound. Ser Barristan's sword sliding free. He planted himself between dais and northern banner. A king who commands massacre within his own hall is no king of mine. His voice cut like Valyrian steel. Gasped. Jaime stepped forward, face taut. Barristan, sheath that blade. Would you slay another king, Kingslayer? The old knight asked. I think not. Cersei's nostrils flared. Remove him. Jaime advanced. That moment Tyrion Lannister bustled through a side entrance, muddy and travel-worn, breathless from hasty arrival with a mountain clan escort. He took in the chaos with widening eyes and shouted in the only voice that could cow his siblings. High, imperious, half serious. What mischief brews when I leave you children alone? Even Cersei startled. Tyrion limped forward. Ser Barristan, put your sword away. No one here is worth your blade. Believe me. Big brother, sheathe yours as well. Joffrey, try Smill. Ng. Ruling is easier when your subjects think you magnanimous rather than murderous. He faced Ned. Lord Stark, I recall owing you a certain gratitude for my release on the road. Perhaps we might repay debts with sense rather than steel.
Ned stared.
He had saved Tyrion once. Would a lion repay in kind? The dwarf's mismatched eyes twinkled anything but malice. Littlefinger slid closer to the queen, whispering rapidly. Varys approached Tyrion, offering the scroll. The dwarf read quickly, lips pursing. Explains much, he muttered. Then louder. Sister, you might have spared us all this trouble by birthing dark-haired babes. Cersei's gaze became daggers. Jaime's jaw tightened. Tyrion turned to the hall. I propose this compromise. Lord Stark and his men quit King's Landing under safe conduct tomorrow at sunrise. Prince Joffrey remains king pending investigation by a grand council formed of all great houses, including Dragonstone, Storm's End, and the Eyrie. Evidence shall be weighed. Any who hinder the council shall be named traitor to realm and throne alike. Murmurs rose among lords. Not perfect, but breathing space. And if we refuse? Cersei asked coldly. Then the river lords will rise for their Tully kin. The north marches. The Vale soars, Dorne snakes, and Dragonstone rains fire. You may keep the throne, sister, but it will sit amid rubble. For a heartbeat, even Joffrey sensed peril. The boy licked his lips. Cersei calculated. Time. She needed time to summon father and his legions. A council could be stalled, corrupted, undone. Very well, she said. But Ned Stark remains our honored guest until safe departure. Hallis bristled. Ned shook his head. I will not sit another night in chains. Cersei smiled thinly. An oath then. You shall not flee to rally arms, nor speak further treason until evidence is heard. Ned considered. Accept to spare his men, or refuse and spark bloodbath? He bowed stiffly. I swear on my honor. Then it is done, Tyrion declared. Barristan lowered his sword. Jaime sheathed his. Goldcloak stepped back. Northern men relaxed but kept blades unsheathed. The storm outside receded to a sullen drizzle, yet tension in the hall remained a taut bowstring. Ned met Varys's eyes, silent gratitude passing. Jon Arryn's truth lived. The realm hung upon it like a lantern in gale. War might still engulf them, but at least the blaze would be kindled by justice, not whispers strangled in dark. That night Ned and his surviving guard were lodged in a round tower ringed by violet wisteria, given bread still warm and flagons of watered wine. Chains were removed, though gold cloaks stood sentinel at every stair. A maester bound Ned's knee. Pain ebbed to a dull pulse. He sat by a narrow window staring over roofs slick with rain, toward the galleys rocking in Blackwater's mouth. Somewhere out there Renly fled, gathering roses and storms. Somewhere along the King's Road Robb marshaled bannermen. Dragons once perched on these same battlements, and the city survived. Perhaps it would again if honor held. Footsteps padded. Sansa slipped through the door, escorted by Septa Mordane and 2 guards. Her eyes were swollen from weeping. She fell to knees by his chair. Father, they said you plotted against the king. He stroked her hair. I plotted only for truth. The hardest wars are fought with words. Will they kill you? Not if I hold to patience. He kissed her brow. Remember, sweetling, a lie may win a night, but truth wins a lifetime. She nodded, though tears glittered. Joffrey wants you to come watch him take oaths tomorrow. He says it will prove your loyalty." Ned smiled sadly. When the tide turns, even princes must shore their courage. He sent her back under guard, heart heavy. Arya was still missing, last seen training with Swordmaster Syrio. If she slipped beyond the Red Keep's nets, perhaps she would reach Yoren of the Night's Watch and ride for the Wall. He prayed to stray northern gods she had the sense to hide. Outside, bells tolled for Robert. The city mourned one king and prepared to crown another, but the crown was cracked and lords sharpened blades in the fissures. Ned's thoughts returned to Winterfell's Godswood. Still pools, rustling leaves whispering old truths. He remembered telling Jon Snow that honorable men walk in daylight and their shadows keep them cool. Yet he now walked lanes of intrigue where sun never reached. Could honor survive? Footsteps again, this time Hallis Malin. "Lord Stark, a raven from Riverrun arrived. Catelyn is safe with your boy at the Twins, forging passage. She writes that Robb summoned banners and marches." Ned's breath caught. He must not war yet. Send word. Hold at Moat Cailin. Await my command. The Great Council may yet spare blood. I'll send at once. Hallis hesitated. And if the lions strike first? Then strike back as a pack. Hallis bowed, leaving. Ned leaned back. Pain and exhaustion weighed, but sleep eluded. He stared at candle flame until dawn blush stained the sky. At sunrise, Queen Cersei stood atop the Gate of the Gods to watch the wolf depart. Ned Stark walked beside Hallis, a cane in hand, his retinue paired to 20. They carried Jon Arryn's shrouded body on a bier bound for the Eyrie. Maester Coleman wept openly. City watch lined the street, but citizens peered from windows, murmuring. Some tossed flowers, others spat, uncertain which lord fought for them. Cersei murmured to Jaime, "Let him go, for now. Wolves bite hardest when cornered. Better he believe himself free." Jaime's gaze followed Ned's limping stride. A tall stallion hobbled still outruns a crippled lion. She smirked. "We shall cut the sinew when the run is long." Behind them Tyrion listened, face unreadable. Far above a raven wheeled, ink blot against dawn. Beyond the mud gate Ned's party boarded a river galley arranged by Littlefinger. The dwarf stood at gangplank. "Farewell, my lord. May the winds favor peace." "Peace seldom favors Littlefinger," Ned answered, though he inclined his head. The galley slipped into current. King's Landing's walls receded. Ned exhaled, ache in chest easing with each oarstroke away. But his mind roiled. Evidence in Stannis's letter, counsel to convene, Catelyn's safety, Robb's haste, Arya's freedom.
Vahoverit, talons poiset.
He must reach Riverrun, rally Riverlords to truce, then parley with Stannis, with Renly, before Tywin's steel tide broke forth. He turned to Jon Arryn's bier. The old falcon's features were serene beneath pale shroud. "I will finish your flight," Ned vowed. Maester Coleman nodded, tears on cheeks. Wind rippled banners. Sable direwolf, silver falcon, burnt orange trout. 3 houses entwined by friendship now again joined by duty. Across the river the city glimmered under fresh sun, deceptively serene. Within its walls a boy king perched on iron fangs. A queen plotted retribution, and a parchment bearing a heron seal waited to ignite everything. The galley glided north. Oars dipped and rose, white spray catching morning light, and the realm held its breath, balanced upon a narrow blade forged of truth, tempered by blood, awaiting the first lord bold or desperate enough to tip the steel. The galley's oars groaned in their leather collars, each stroke sending long skeins of ripples across a dawn-pink river that smelled of wet reeds and distant salt. Ned Stark stood beneath the woven awning at the prow, cloak snapping against his calves, eyes fixed on the shimmering thread that was the King's Road unfurling across low hills. A chill breeze funneled downstream, ruffling gray wolf heads on banners lashed to the rail. The rhythmic splash of oars blended with gull cries and the hollow thunk of ropes against mast. Behind him Jon Arryn's bier lay beneath a linen shroud stitched with tiny crescent moons, the fabric stirring like breath whenever wind curled down the deck. Night had left Ned weary but alert. He tasted iron whenever he flexed the cut on his lip, a souvenir of Jaime's sword-tip grazing flesh as he'd been seized. Yet pain anchored him to every heartbeat, reminders he was alive, that the game had not devoured him yet. He inhaled river damp and thought of Winterfell's cold, honey-sweet air, the scent of pine and wood smoke that even 1,000 leagues could not scour from memory. Hallis Malin joined him, knuckles whitening on the rail. "Blackfish riders met us an hour east of the ford," he said, voice pitched low. "They'll shadow us to Riverrun. If lions charge, we'll know." Ned glanced upriver. A faint glimmer of mail flickered among willows, then vanished. "Edmure's caution serves us, though I pray Steel sleeps at least until we hold council." Hallis nodded but cast a doubtful eye south, where Thunderheads still bulged purple beyond the city walls. King's Landing dwindled, its red towers shapeless in haze, yet dread curled Ned's gut as if some invisible chain still linked him to the place. Inside those walls Sansa waited, and Littlefinger whispered, and Cersei sharpened every word into a blade. The galley hugged the bank where reeds bowed like supplicants. Past nightfall they moored at an abandoned fish camp, for sagging huts and a mossy jetty. Ned refused cabin rest. He walked among men pitching canvas, offered quiet words, inspected swords. He found Maester Coleman kneeling by the bier, whispering prayers to the Father and the Crone. "He kept his own counsel with the Seven," Ned said gently. Coleman flinched, wiped eyes. He feared no death, yet worried what seed his words might sprout. Fingers trembled over the shroud. "He asked me once if truth could be more perilous than a lie. I told him lies rot unseen, but truth is a storm, and storms cleanse." Ned laid a hand on the maester's shoulder. "This storm will rage, aye, but we'll see it washes clean what must be cleansed." Coleman's gaze drifted to shadowed trees. "I hope the realm is strong enough not to drown." Ned hoped so too. He left the maester to his vigil and sought Hallis again, finding him oiling a sword beneath lantern light. "How many riders in our escort?" 21. Royce leads them. Another 10 bowmen from the Fingers Trail, loosely. Rabar swore to hold any road until we passed the Tumblestone. Ned considered numbers. Numbers felt thin. "Send ravens to Oldstones, Maidenpool, Derry. Notify them Lord Stark travels under safe conduct. If Tywin's scouts approach, I want witness." Hallis grunted assent. "And if the twins bar our way, Hoster Tully's seal opens those gates." Ned's voice held confidence he prayed true. Morning painted the river in lambent gold. The galley slipped past root-gnarled banks and orchards heavy with pale fruit. Farmers paused in fields to stare at the mast where direwolf, trout, and falcon flapped together. Some raised fists in silent salute. Others crossed themselves, fearful of banners portending war. At midday they grounded at a stony beach where a spring bubbled clear as mirror glass. Men refilled skins. Ned knelt, scooped handfuls to rinse dried blood from cheek and beard. A shout rose from the treeline, Royce's riders herding a prisoner between spears. They thrust a red-cloaked scout onto the stones, his horse limping behind. The man glared through a sweat-matted fringe. Hallis relieved him of a dagger stamped with a lion's head. Ned studied the prisoner. Name, Carlton Prest. Sworn to Lord Crakehall. A long ride from the Westerlands. Ned wiped water from knuckles. Where is Lord Tywin's host? The old road, the scout spat. Marching east. How many? Enough to break you. Ned's jaw tightened. And Riverrun? Flames soon stark. The man's grin showed broken teeth. Hallis struck him across the mouth. Ned raised a hand. Bind him. We'll trade him for honest answers later. He turned to Coleman. Ready ravens. Warn Riverrun Tywin advances past the Golden Tooth. Tell Robb to hold Moat Cailin but prepare. Coleman hurried aft. Ned felt weight settle deeper on shoulders. War moved faster than river currents. 2 days brought them to the Red Fork's wide embrace. The Tumblestone hissed over gravel bars, glittering. Twin towers of Riverrun's outer walls rose against western sky, Banners of silver trout on red snapped from turrets. When horns blared, portcullis lifted, and Ned's galley drifted beneath stone arches into the moat's arm where torches lined the quay. Edmure Tully waited in mail and river-blue cloak. His freckles stood out stark upon worry-pale cheeks. He clasped Ned's forearm, eyes flicking to the beer. 7 keep him. My father awaits in the solar. As do letters black as crows, Ned said. They embraced briefly. Then Edmure barked orders for stretcher-bearers, and Jon Arryn's body disappeared toward the sept tower trailing candles. Inside Riverrun's great hall Huthfires roared. Hoster Tully, gaunt in a wheeled chair, greeted Ned with frail enthusiasm, voice rough with pain. Catelyn arrived breathless, cheeks flushed with relief and fear. She fell into Ned's arms, clinging as if storms beat down upon her alone. He pressed lips to her hair, tasting salt tears. "Robb marches," she whispered. 5,000 Hearthmen already at Moat Cailin. More crossing the neck. Ned swallowed. He must not meet Tywin yet. Hoster's rasp grew sharper. Tywin crosses our borders nonetheless. You ask us sit idle while lion claws at our door? I would ride myself, but... He coughed crimson into a kerchief. Ned knelt beside him. I ask only days. A great council may avert bloodshed. Stannis claims proof. Renly courts the reach. Dorne sharpens spears. If each raises banners, 7 kingdoms burn. Hoster dabbed lips. Burn they may. Yet if we yield now, they carve my riverlands like a roast. Lannisters do not parley when they scent weakness. Edmure spoke from corner. Scouts say lions sack villages along the Mummers Ford. My people beg Riverrun for swords, not scrolls. Catelyn's fingers twined his. We lost Jory, we nearly lost you. I will not lose Robb to hesitation. Ned's heart strained. If truth crowns Stannis, Tywin may abandon Joffrey rather than lose everything. Without Western gold, the Queen's cause breaks. If, Edmure said, always if, steel makes surer argument than parchment. Ned pushed to feet. Then steel will ready but not swing first. Deploy outriders to screen the fords, delay, Harry. We gather lords tonight. Blackwood, Bracken, Mallister, Fry if he'll come. We decide as river lords, not lion prey. Hoster's lidded eyes gleamed. Very well. Speak your counsel, nephew Snowwolf. But the river runs one way. That evening Jon Arryn's funeral rites filled Riverrun's sept with flicker flame and lavender incense. Silent sisters peeled the linen from his face. Light washed hollow cheeks, proud chin, closed eyes slightly sunken, yet still stately. A ribbon of Lisa's hair lay across folded hands, a token she'd sent by Raven, refusing travel in her grief-wrapped fortress. Maester Coleman intoned eulogies until voice cracked. Ned spoke last, telling of Jon teaching him to read court ledgers by hearth glow, of his laughter when Robert's first tourney lance splintered, of the Falcon Knight's dream that the realm could be ruled by honor instead of fear. He ended with a vow to see that dream guarded, even in chaos. Catelyn wept softly. Edmure bit lip. Hallis and northern guards dipped torches toward the bier. Then acolytes slid the body onto a Blackwood canoe in Riverrun's moonlit keep pond. Candle boats ringed its rim, tiny stars mirrored in water. When shackles were cut, the canoe drifted out a sluice gate into the tumblestone, bound for the narrow sea and the Vale's carve of coastline, where Arryn banners would wait on lonely beaches. Ned watched until the last flame winked behind reeds. Riverrun Solar, cluttered with scroll towers and dusty antler racks, hosted the war council. Late sun pooled vermilion across paneled walls, painting lords' faces half blood, half bronze. Blackwood Raven, Bracken Horse, and Mallister Silver Eagle studded benches. Walder Frye sent only 2 grandsons, Ser Stevrin and young Walder Rivers, who sniffed the air like dogs among wolves. Robb Stark burst in mid-debate, mail still mud-splattered from riding. He seemed older, shoulders broader, jaw shadowed, yet eyes still carried boyish fervor. He embraced his father fiercely. Gray wind padded at his heels, sniffing Lord's boots. Robb's voice filled the chamber. Our scouts sight Lannister outriders near Acorn Hall. They burn grain, seize hostages. Lord Vance wires for help. Edmure slammed fist on oak. More proof lions mean war. Ned raised a hand. And more reason Tywin can be named traitor before council. Stannis's ravens cite incest and treason. Tywin adds rebellion. Gather evidence, not corpses. Blackwood Lord stroked gray beard. I would rather string lions from weirwood bows. But if we tarry, the fords fall. Robb unrolled a rough map. I split forces. Tallheart and Glover hold the neck. Karstark rides south to join Mallister screening the Red Fork. I march the main strength to Riverrun. No, Ned said. You march nowhere until I negotiate safe passage across the Twins. Walder Frey will squeeze us dry elsewise. Robb reddened. We cannot let the Riverlands bleed while we dicker with a bridge toll. Nor can we feed a host of wolves if Frey hoards grain behind his walls. Ned looked to Stevrin. Will your Lord Father open the gates for King's justice? Stevrin scratched gray whiskers. Lord Walder requests certain assurances. Name them, Catelyn said, weary of Frey bargaining. A betrothal between his son Olivar and a daughter of House Stark or Tully, and a place on any council that arises from this dispute. Robb's mouth twisted. Ned squeezed his shoulder. We hear and will answer by raven at dawn. Stevrin inclined head. Lord Walder respects prompt reply. Robb muttered a wolf's protest, but Ned softened his tone. I ask patience, son. Our swords will sing soon enough, but choose the song. Gray wind growled as if seconding frustration. Ned ruffled the direwolf's fur absently. War planning melted into late-night haggling. Supply caches, scouting lines, ravens coded in ciphers. Mallister proposed river galleys for troop ferries. Bracken and Blackwood bickered until midnight. Only when candles sputtered down to stumps did Ned adjourn. Outside corridors flickered bronze. Robb fell into step. Father, time is arrow flight. Tywin will not wait for councils. Nor will the others beyond the wall, Ned reminded gently. Yet Winterfell stands because we discern foes from winds. Robb's brows knit. Do you doubt the lions murdered King Robert? I doubt nothing, but proving it matters to lords who fear breaking oaths sworn to a crown, and crowns can change heads. Stannis's claim is lawful. Renly's popular. Joffrey sits the throne. If the North moves hastily, we risk standing alone. Robb exhaled. I will heed you, but if Tywin reaches Riverrun walls, we fight. Ned clasped his forearm. Hold your courage till then. War tests men quicker than time ever could. At dawn, Ned penned letters. One to Stannis accepting invitation to produce evidence before a neutral council at Storm's End. Copies to Renly and Prince Oberyn urging the same. One to Balon Greyjoy, reminding of oaths to the crown and promising Iron Islands a seat. To Walder Frey he offered betrothal of Arya, should she consent at age 15. To whichever Frey son matched her station if the twins opened. It pained him to trade his wild daughter's hand, yet bloodshed demanded price. Catelyn entered as he sealed scrolls. Arya may refuse. I pray she is safe to refuse. He pressed wax with direwolf seal. We must pay debts with promises while we still own them. Catelyn touched his cheek. When did prudence dull the wolf's bite? When I saw too many graves. He kissed her palm. Send riders to the twins. If Frey balks, we find boats or build rafts. But the host crosses by moon's turn. She nodded. And Stannis. I ride to Storm's End with evidence. I ask Edmure to tighten Riverrun's defenses and Robb to hold Moat Cailin. You will govern here. The Blackfish guides me along the coastal road, swift and quiet, her fingers curled in his sleeves. You ride alone while lions hunt? Honor ought walk the lonely roads, he said, but managed a smile. Bryndon's bow seldom misses. See, it does not, she whispered. By week's end ravens returned. Stannis agreed to council at Storm's End in one moon and pledged safe conduct. Renly, camped at Bitterbridge with Highgarden spearmen, accepted conditionally. If council included High Septon and was witnessed by neutral scribes for posterity. Oberyn Martell sent only a blood-red seal labeled Dorne Remembers. ambiguous yet ominous. Walder Frey accepted Arya's future hand and opened the bridge. Tywin's host had not yet breached the Red Fork but massed near Ashmark. Reports of Gregor Clegane's outriders torching herricks set every farmer's teeth on edge. Still, rivers slowed invaders, and Ned prayed letters outraced war. Blackfish Brynden led the small party south. Ned, Hallis Malin, 10 picked guards, and Maester Coleman carrying Jon Arryn's journal like a holy relic. They rode lean horses clothed in plain leather, banners hidden. The road to Storm's End skirted the Rainwood, past orchards swapped between Stormlords since Aegon's day. Farmers fled at approach until Brynden sang a river-run tune, easing them. Each night they slept in ruined septries or hay lofts, keeping no fire but banked coals. On the fourth day thunderheads rolled in from Shipbreaker Bay. The party found shelter beneath a wind-carved sandstone outcrop. Rain drummed the rocks. Lightning spidered across black sky. Ned stared into dark, remembering Robert's laugh when they last hunted along these cliffs. The boar had taken him from beneath such storm-shattered sky. He wondered if Robert's restless ghost trod those tides, still clutching horn and wine. A sudden whinny tore him from memory. Hallis backpedaled down the slope. Riders, banner of the crowned stag but Blackbar sinister. Stannis's men. Brynden pulled Ned under the rock lip. Moments later, a troop of gray-cloaked knights clattered into view, torches sputtering. Their leader dismounted, square jaw, cropped beard, Ser Davos Seaworth. He saluted with 2 fingers. Lord Stark, Lord Stannis bids you welcome to Storm's End. We feared the Queen's hunters might strike. Ned stepped forward, rain-plastering hair. Your arrival spares us soaked bones, Ser Davos. Led on. They rode through torrents to Storm's End at dawn, its colossal drum tower rising from sea-lashed cliffs like a titan's fist. Winds screeched through arrow slits. Seabirds wheeled above battlements. Gates opened to torchlit tunnel. Inside Great Hall, banners of Heart in Flame and Crowned Stag on fiery field hung side by side. Stannis Baratheon awaited on a dais, jaw clenched like a vice, clad in black scales that glimmered dimly. At his shoulder loomed Melisandre, red-haired priestess whose ruby pulsed like trapped ember. Stannis's blue eyes fixed Ned. You bear proof. Ned presented a leather satchel. Jon Arryn's genealogies, statements by Maesters of the Rock confirming golden-haired inheritance, oath-signed depositions from Robert's bastards, and the king's own decree naming me protector until rightful heir. He met Melisandre's gaze briefly. Crimson fire seemed to dance within her pupils and turned back. I demand a grand council of lords, as agreed. Stannis's lips thinned. They gather now. Hightower, Tarly, Selmy, Martell envoys, Maester's conclave. Renly will come or be declared conspirator. Renly marches with Highgarden, Davos muttered. He will come armed. Then so be it, Stannis said. Storm's End has withstood dragons. Let it withstand roses. Ned opened the satchel on a stone table. Pages fluttered. Stannis scanned signatures, nostrils flaring. It is enough. The throne must pass to me. To whomever council decrees after evidence, Ned corrected. Stannis slammed a fist. Law needs no council. Law needs consent, else it becomes tyranny. Ned's voice stayed level. Win the lords with proof, not clenched fists. Melisandre's voice slid like silk across a dagger. The night is long, Lord Stark, and full of terrors. Men who cling to parchment may find flames hungry. Ned held her gaze. Flames also reveal hidden things, truth among them. Stannis waved irritation. Enough. Rest. Council meets at dusk. Hallis settled guards in an armory beneath the curtain wall. Maester Coleman joined Storm's End healers. Ned sought the sept to clear his mind, but found it boarded, Stannis's disdain for the Seven palpable. Instead he stood upon battlements overlooking the sea where waves crashed like drums. The sky cleared to bruised indigo. Gulls wheeled, shrieking. He thought of Bran sprawled beneath the broken tower, of Jon Snow beyond the wall, of Arya loose in alleys. Each child walked a different peril path shaped by choices he had made across 20 years of honor, love, and mistake. He prayed they would not pay heavier prices yet. Footsteps approached Ser Davos. The Onion Knight leaned against parapet, salt rain sent clinging to cloak. "My lord, I once smuggled onions through these very caves to feed Stannis during Robert's rebellion. He clings to law like a drowning man to driftwood. You have brought him more wood to lash into a raft, but whether it floats depends on lords who prefer silk sails."
Ned smiled sadly.
"I'd take driftwood over silk sails filling with vanity. But princes chase banners bright as sun." Davos nodded seaward. "Melisandre says Azor Ahai shall wield Lightbringer flame against darkness. To Stannis that means destiny. To others, heresy. Destiny and heresy are siblings in history books."
Ned sighed.
"What do you believe?" "I believe men are fallible and seas are unforgiving." Davos's grin was crooked. "And that smuggling truth into dens of power is riskier than onions." The council convened as purple dusk bled into torches. Stormlords, Reachlords, Archmesters, Dorne's dark emissaries, even a surly Lisa Arryn envoy all gathered in the Storm Hall. Renly Baratheon arrived with Loras Tyrell and a retinue of rose-scented knights 2 hours late, swaggering despite travel dust. Ned's heart clenched at the sharp contrast between grim Stannis and golden Renly, Robert's brothers embodying the very fracture threatening Westeros. Ser Barristan Selmy entered last, white cloak scorched at hem from some skirmish on his flight from King's Landing. He bowed to Ned. They clasped wrists. Across the chamber, Cersei's representative, Lord Giles Rosby, pale of lung and spine, cowered near fireplace, throat rattling. Stannis stepped forward, parchment in hand. "Lords of Westeros," he began, voice steady as drumbeat. "The line of succession demands truth." He laid out proofs. Genealogies, depositions, king's warrant scratched by Robert's failing hand, Maester's red lineages allowed. Ned provided sworn statements verifying bastard traits. Selmy recounted Robert's final hours under Poppy Hayes and the Queen's interference. Murmurs rose, some indignant, some fearful. Renly folded arms. "If incest foul crowns Joffrey, realm must choose a king beloved and strong, not dour and friendless." Stannis's glare could strip bark. "Law is not a tourney where smiles award roses. And yet I ride where men follow willingly," Renly replied. Olenna Tyrell's nephew Lord Mace puffed pride from behind Renly, though Tyrell matriarch herself remained in Highgarden. Dorne's Oberyn envoy chuckled, muttering that scorpions need no smiles. The Archmaester tallied evidence. Lannister traits dominating each royal child, Robert's dark seed proven by bastards, Jon Arryn's notations free of scratch-outs. Weight of parchment bent some lords' shoulders. Others remained stiff, waiting to gauge winds. Then Lord Giles hacked phlegm and wheezed. "The king commands obedience. Joffrey sits the throne." Ser Barristan spoke, voice quavering only faintly. "The boy threatened massacre. I can no longer bear his shield." Silence crushed air. Lords glanced at one another, calculating. Melisandre's ruby pulsed bright. "The false light of lions blinds you. The Lord's fire reveals only one true king. Stannis, chosen of flame." Renly snorted. "I prefer solar crowns to bonfire charlatans." The room cracked with tension thicker than castle walls. Ned stepped between brothers. "The realm stands at cliff's edge. Choose unity over pride. A vote before sunrise. Anonymous tallies. Stannis, Renly, Joffrey. Abide results." Renly arched a brow. "Include your north? And dragon spawn across the sea." "The north votes," Ned said. "Across the sea there is only rumor." Stannis's jaw ticked. "Very well. Let the lords of Westeros decide." They agreed to seal tokens cast into an iron chest guarded by Ser Barristan and Davos. Lords dispersed to alcoves, whispered, consulted maesters. Ned retreated to a tapestry-hung corridor, heart pounding. Catelyn's face floated before him, hope struggling against fear. He leaned against cold stone, closed eyes, prayed to old gods who listened only to wind. Before dawn, horns wailed. Ned emerged to find hall ablaze with torches. The chest stood open upon dais. Tokens scattered. A stag in flaming heart outnumbered both rose stag and lion stag 2-1. Stannis's narrow majority should have spelled peace. Yet Renly was gone. So was half the Reach knighthood. Their tents empty, horses gone into night. A note pinned by dagger to a pillar read, "A broken vote binds no crowns. The realm shall choose on the field where men cannot cheat." Signed with a green rose. Stannis's fury roared like storm-lashed surf. Treachery. Lord Rowan, still present, stammered excuses. Stannis ordered gates sealed, ravens loosed. Melisandre whispered that shadows stir where faith falters. Ned stood amid chaos gripping the chest. War's first spear had flown disguised as retreat. Tywin's host moved east, Renly moved west, and the Queen's lions still controlled King's Landing. Only Stannis's stern fist and Ned's parchments balanced them. Davos beckoned. "Lord Stark, ships ready in the cove. Reach men may sail to Bitterbridge by noon. We must secure seas." "I must reach Riverrun," Ned replied. "Tell Stannis. Hold council's mandate. If he pursues Renly before proclaiming, lords may swing again." Davos nodded, doubtful. "Pray storms favor you." Ned gathered Hallis and guards, loaded horse and parchment onto a swift carrack named Maiden of the Mander. Dawn bled peach along horizon as sails unfurled, but wind came harsh from east, carrying salt tang and faint copper stench of distant fires. Coleman watched gulls wheel astern. "The storm cleanses," he said, "but not without breaking trees." Ned gripped rail. "Trees grow again." He looked north across restless waves, imagining Robb pacing Riverrun's walls, gray wind howling at cloud-shrouded moon. He pictured Cersei reading Renly's flight, summoning Tywin. He saw Sansa pressing tear-blotched letters, Arya gripping needle in some dank alley. He saw Bran atop Winterfell's broken tower, staring into weirwood leaves rustling secrets older than kings. The ship bounded over swells, timbers groaning like distant thunder. Ned Stark braced on deck, cloak streaming, eyes hard on shimmer where river met sea. The realm's fate swirled in that confluence. Truth, ambition, vengeance. Currents colliding unseen beneath surface calm. Soon they would crash upon rocks of decision, and steel would speak where parchment failed. But for this moment the prow cleaved water sure and unwavering, and in its wake foamed a vow as steadfast as north wind, that no lie, however gilded, would stand unchallenged while the last wolf drew breath. Rain sheared across the Maiden of the Mander's deck in silver knives as the carrack bucked southwest, following the crescent of Cape Wrath before knifing up the coast toward the mouths of the Blackwater and the riverlands beyond. Lightning flared violet behind the sails, etching the ribs of the rigging as if the ship were a skeleton hauled by storm spirits. Ned Stark stood braced at the prow, salt spray wetting his beard, boots planted wide against each lurch. Every so often he pressed a palm against the oilskin satchel lashed across his chest. The parchments within felt warmer than flesh, as though truth itself carried fever. He slept little the first 3 nights, haunted by Renly's vanished banners, by Stannis's hollow victory, by Cersei's sly smile still flickering in memory. At dusk on the 4th day clouds tore apart to reveal a blood-orange sunset. Ned lingered beside the rail long after the watch bells tolled, watching the wounded sky fade to bruised indigo. He thought of Robb at Moat Cailin, of Winterfell's hot springs steaming beneath snowdrifts, of Catelyn pacing Riverrun's walls, and of Arya, somewhere between city and country, steel in her hand and a wolf's stubborn courage belling in her chest. The ache for home throbbed deeper than the sword cut at his lip. The wind freshened out of the north and set the square sail snapping like a drumhead. Hallis Malin found him there, hood dark with spray. "Raven came while you brooded," he said, voice pitched above the hiss of hull wash. "Lord Robb reports lions crossed the Red Fork near Fairmarket. Ser Edmure rides to meet them with half the river host. Tywin himself remains at Ashmark, but Gregor Clegane leads the van." Ned's jaw tightened. How many leagues from Riverrun? Less than 4 days if they press. And Edmure presses? "Like a trout upon sand, my lord." Hallis offered a grim smile. "Robb begs haste. but the message is 2 nights old. Ned's eyes narrowed at the horizon where pale starlight danced upon black water. We make Port-à-Fleur by dawn with this wind. Hire fresh mounts, ride through the night. We must reach Riverrun before the ford runs red. Dawn found them tacking into Port-à-Fleur's cramped harbor. Gulls wheeling overhead like scraps of parchment torn by wind. The harbor master, roused from sleep, blinked when he saw the direwolf badge on Ned's cloak. In an eye-blink coin changed hands, a narrow pier was cleared, and stable hands fetched 6 sorrel coursers with foam already lacing their bits. They rowed within an hour. Maester Coleman and 2 guards remained to oversee the satchel of evidence. Safer carried by sea, Ned reasoned, while Hallis and 4 picked Northmen spurred along the rutted coast track, skirts of Storm's End's pine-clad hinterlands melting into the reed flats of the Windwater. By afternoon, they were swimming their horses across the Mander's warm brown current, emerging soaked but unpursued on a bank fragrant with wild mint. That night they slept in a ruined sept whose stone ribs clawed at a sickle moon, the wind moaning through shattered lancet windows like ghosts unshriven. Ned dreamt of Jon Arryn again, but in the dream the hoarfrost in Jon's beard melted. His eyes shone bright as youth, and he walked the length of the airy sky cells, pushing open door after door. Each cell looked out upon a different battlefield. The trident awash with blue blood, the Blackwater a mirror for dragonfire, the neck consumed by ice. When Jon turned, snow sifted from his shoulders. "I left them all unlocked," he said, and his voice was the angry mutter of a coming blizzard. "Close what you can." Ned woke before dawn, heart hammering. A pale chill breathed through the ruined sept, stirring ashes on the hearth. He rose, saddled his drenched mount, and led the way without a word. 2 days later, smoke smeared the sky ahead in greasy columns. They crested a wooded ridge to find the town of Fairmarket smoldering. Charred roof beams jutting like broken ribs, bodies heaped at a crossroads beneath a flapping Lannister banner daubed with a black handprint. The eyes of the slain had been plucked by crows. Flies swarmed the raw wounds where heads had once been. Hallis spat. "Clegane leaves his sign," he growled. They skirted scorched orchards where pigs gnawed corpses, then crossed trampled barley fields toward the roar of distant river. By noon they reached the Red Fork Ford. Mud churned to pudding, arrow shafts protruding from reed beds, a banner torn in half tangled on driftwood. River water ran pink where sunlight touched shallows. Edmure's host, 2 days late, had met Gregor's outriders at dawn and broken them. So said a mangled Lannister prisoner Hallis found moaning beneath a felled oak. But a second blow had followed before midday. Heavy horse under Ser Stafford Lannister crashing Edmure's flank, scattering fisherfolk levies and smallfolk archers. Ned knelt beside the prisoner, who clutched a gut wound buzzing with flies. "Where rides Ser Edmure now?" "East," the man croaked, blood frothing his lips. "Bent like a hammered nail. Riverlord banners, flying, then burning." He coughed once, eyes rolling white. Hallis drew his dagger across the man's throat. Mercy and message both. "We follow the smoke?" Hallis asked. Ned's gaze drifted upriver where river rushes stirred. A line of riders appeared on the far bank. Blue cloaks slashed crimson, salmon crest upon their helms. Edmure Tully himself led them, face streaked with soot, helm dented. He raised a war horn and blew 3 ragged blasts. Ned answered by brandishing the direwolf standard. A makeshift pontoon bridge of barrel-lashed planks spanned the ford. Edmure's vanguard thudded across, horses stumbling on broken boards. When he dismounted, his eyes were sleepless pits. "7 take that mountain," he rasped, gesturing with a bloody gauntlet. "We smashed his outriders, then Ser Stafford hit from flank. Lost a quarter my foot. Near lost the whole ford had Ser Rabar Royce's veil lances not scattered them." Ned clasped his forearm. "What of Gregor?" "Withdrawn west with a headful of steel. We harry, but lions dig their claws each time. Tywin drives them like hounds, never too far ahead." Edmure's gaze fell to Ned's travel-stained cloak, hope flickering. "The parchments. Safe by sea, but sea lanes grow perilous. Redwine fleets shade Renly now." "Renly," Edmure spat in the dirt. He marched south instead of west. Who will hold the mander if roses wilt? Ned thought of Loras Tyrell's tremulous loyalty to Renly above reach. Highgarden gambles on Renly's smile against Stannis' shadow. They will not turn until a king is crowned unchallenged. Or until swords decide, Edmure growled. I would crown a butcher's boy if he sent lion heads bobbing down river. Ned laid a hand on his cousin's mail and blood-crusted shoulder. We cannot fight every war at once. Tywin raids to bait us from walls. Draw him deeper, into river loops where Lannister Dromons choke crossing. Edmure's shoulders sagged. Every loop holds farms that burn while we wait. Farms grow again, Ned murmured, recalling Coleman's words. Extinguish the fire at its source. King's Landing, and fields will sprout anew. Edmure's tired laugh sounded more like a sob. That fire feeds on wildfire, cousin. The march to Riverrun became a weary parade of casualties. Wagons groaned beneath wounded men. Half the small folk levies limped barefoot, cords of bowstrings trailing from cracked quivers. Yet at each village many still knelt when Ned rode past, touching fingers to lips in the old northern sign against darkness. They had heard of the Lord's great council and whispers that truth itself now fought beside them. 3 leagues from Riverrun the Blackfish intercepted, steel-gray hair dripping from helm, cheeks split but eyes bright with battle fever. Fry barges ferrying Robb's vanguard passed the twins 2 days back, he reported. Lord Roose commands the center, Great John the Van. Word is Grey Wind harried a Lannister outrider column to pieces near Saltspear Ford. He grinned, teeth red with blood. Tywin's bowels may quiver sooner than thought. They reached Riverrun at dusk. Torches shimmered on moat waters, reflecting walls where fresh siege scaffolding bristled. Edmure's men had been fortifying while he rode. Inside, Catelyn met them in the yard beneath banners limp with drizzle. She embraced Ned long, then led him to the solar where candles spattered wax across scattered maps. Robb waited there, gray eyes smudged by sleepless hours but blazing with resolve. He bowed his head slightly to his father, deference mixed with pride. Moat Caelan holds, he reported, voice deepened by command. But ravens from the Dreadfort claim Bolton bannermen grow restless, eager to strike. He hesitated. They follow, but fear war without clear king. Ned unrolled Stannis' writ sealed by Maester's lead. Here is clarity. The Grand Council's vote crowned Stannis. He passed it to Robb, who scanned then raised brows. Reach lords contested, Ned continued. Yet numbers stood. Renly fled. Proof waits in Storm's End vaults. He inhaled. Tomorrow we announce. Robb's jaw clenched. Then Stannis is king? So lords agreed, by law if not affection. We bend the knee. We press King's Landing before Tywin secures it for Joffrey. Edmure slammed a goblet onto a plank table. Bend the knee to a king who sits on a sea rock while rivers burn? Let him prove word with deeds. Catelyn touched his arm. Deeds demand men, Edmure. Stannis needs the North and Riverlands. We need his claim to pry the lion's paws from Myrcella's crown. Silence. Rain pattered the shutters. At last Robb straightened, folding the document. I will kneel, if the lords of the Riverlands kneel beside me. His gaze bore into Edmure. And we will march south together, wolf, trout, and falcon, to claim what law decrees. Edmure exhaled, tension bleeding from shoulders. Trout swim with wolves, then. I'll call banners at dawn. He managed a wry smile. If Tywin doesn't drown us first. Ned spent that night above Riverrun's Godswood Pool where moon-white lilies floated. The old northern gods were strangers here. Yet when he knelt on damp stone beneath a single elm, he felt their stillness settle on his shoulders like a cloak. He laid ice across his knees. Not the great Valyrian sword, but the memory of its weight. Out loud he listed each life the blade had taken in his hands, from the Oathbreakers at Gulltown to the deserter on the King's Road that first day of summer. He whispered their names and let the night take them. Then he rose stiffly, suddenly older. At dawn, horns brayed. Lords assembled in the yard. Blackwood in ravenwing cloak, Bracken scowling, Piper whistling some bawdy tune beneath steel. Vance with arrow-notched helm. Blue sky peaked for the first time in a fortnight, sun glimmering on puddles. Robb walked forward in gray plate trimmed in white, gray wind loping at heel. Edmure wore a crimson surcoat stained dark where mail rubbed wounds. The blackfish held a single roll of parchment. Ned removed his cloak, folded it, laid it across Maester Coleman's arms. Then he knelt before the assembled banners, drawing a dagger from his belt. He placed its edge upon his palm until a thin red line beaded. Catelyn stepped forward, kissed his brow, then withdrew. Ser Bryndon's voice carried across the yard. "Who among you honors the claim of King Stannis Baratheon, first of his name, rightful lord of the Seven Kingdoms?" He unfurled the parchment for all eyes. One by one banners dipped. The Black Raven of Blackwood, the Red Horse of Bracken, the quartered Lannister eagle and ribboned, the Piper pipes. Horns sounded, armor clanged, wolves howled from kennel. When last pennant bowed, it was the white son of House Frye, young Olivar kneeling awkwardly, but kneeling. Ned rose. "Then let it be known the North and Trident stand for truth." Blood dripped from his palm onto mud. "We march south not for conquest, nor for vengeance alone, but to seat the rightful king and end the slaughter of innocents." Robb lifted his sword, light searing along steel. "The young wolf rides," someone shouted, but Robb shook his head. "I ride only as Lord of Winterfell until this war is done. When peace reigns, the North will follow the realm's just crown, not break away in pride." A murmur of surprise rippled. Many northern lords had expected independence talk. Yet Ned felt weight relax inside. Honor bent but not broken. The War Council met again at noon. Scouts sketched Tywin's host encamped near Harrenhal's smoking towers. Gregor, Kevin, Stafford, and the bloody mummers under Vargo Hoat. Jaime remained in King's Landing, or so rumor came, commanding the city's walls while Cersei brewed wildfire and lured cell sails with gold. Renly's Rose and Antler army caroused at Bitterbridge, numbers swelling with every reach banner that chose green over black. Dorne still watched with cobra patience. And across the sea, faint whispers told of a silver-haired queen marching with unsullied spears through Astapor's crimson sands. Yet that threat was mist on horizon, not steel at throat. Lannister proposed a daring plan. The Great Jon and Karstark would feign crossing at Fairmarket, drawing Tywin north toward the Neck, while Roose Bolton slipped south along the Green Fork, linking with Stannis' vanguard at Storm's End ferries. The combined host would then swing behind Tywin, severing his supply lines, driving him either into Stony September where Riverlords waited or into Harrenhal's ruin. Meanwhile, Edmure's battered levies held the Red Fork crossings, bolstered by Riverrun scorpions. It was audacious, risky, reliant on secrecy.
Ned liste ned. Fingesh stipled.
Finally he spoke. "I will ride to Storm's End again with Rabar Royce and 300 swift horse. Deliver Stannis our oath in person. Ensure coordination. Bolton's men ride with me for first leg. His loyalty must be tested." He caught Robb's sharp glance. "Stark honor compels trust, but trust must be met." Catelyn gripped his sleeve. "Your wounds are healed enough." He smiled. "A wolf's bones knit in war." Edmure nodded reluctantly. "I'll hold Riverrun. May the twins not crumble under Frye feasting." That night he sought Sansa's latest letter, sent by Septa Mordane, smuggled through a spice merchant. Her words trembled. Joffrey grew crueler, Cersei forbade raven quills, Ser Meryn struck her for a single mis-recited verse. She begged for deliverance. Ned's throat tightened. He could think only of the last time he had stroked her hair, telling her songs sometimes lied. Now she lived in one. He penned reply upon plain parchment. "Sweetling, hold hope. The truth approaches the city as inevitable as dawn. Speak caution, hide courage. Tell no tales save those the queen expects. When the wolves appear at the gate, do not fear the howling." He sealed it with blank wax, no sigil, trusting Varys's whisper channels for delivery. Then he wrote a shorter note addressed simply Arya. "Remember the dance of water and leaf. Shadows are only light asleep." He doubted it would find her, but words were candles against dark. 3 days saw the host disentangle. Trumpets blared as great Jon Arryn led columns northwest, shaggy riders cursing in booming voices. Karstark spearmen followed, blank-eyed as graveyard statues. Roose Bolton, pale as milk glass, bowed to Ned, soft smile never touching his eyes, then turned his flayedman banners toward Seaguard's ferry roads. Ned watched him depart with misgiving coiling like adder in gut. Yet Bolton's wrath wore a polished mask that even dread could not crack. Ned's own contingent rode east across rolling wheat fields, Royce falcons soaring on polished helms, 40 Dreadfort riders cloaked in leech red among them. Hallis carried Jon Arryn's seal and the maester's satchel, returned from sea voyage with deck stink still in his clothes. The Blackfish scouted ahead, bowstring humming low tunes. By twilight the column entered the King's Road, wagon ruts glazed with puddles. Hillocks rose on either side, cloak-dark stands of beech and alder clustering like sullen onlookers. They made camp in a tallgrass meadow where fireflies sparked green moats. Ned lay on bedroll staring at a star-freckled void, reviewing maps in mind, tracing supply lines, numbers, moraloo. Sometime after second watch the scream came, high, short, abruptly cut. He sprang up sword in hand as Royce knights leapt, half-armored. A sentry staggered into firelight, arrow protruding beneath collarbone, eyes already glazing. Shadows moved, he rasped, then fell. Bolton's riders formed a wall of shields. Ned heard whistles in the dark, the distinctive skirl of mountain clans. Ambush, Hallis shouted. Arrows hissed. One thudded into Ned's greave. He and Royce charged the nearest treeline. Steel flashed. A hill tribesman reeled from Ned's downswing, jaw hanging loose. But more shapes darted short, rag-clad men with stone axes. A howl rose, answered by guttural shouts further west. Ned realized 2 forces struck at once. Clansmen from the Vale and Sellsword crossbowmen north of the road, their bolts streaking crimson in torch glare. Royce parried a hooked blade, bellowing his house words. Ned shoved beside him, dogs of the mountain snapping at shields. Behind, Bolton's commander Ser Clay Serwyn shouted for a wedge, but his riders held curiously back, forming a thin line yet not charging. In torch glare, Ned glimpsed flayedman's standards shifting almost eagerly. Another bolt clacked off Ned's pauldron. He pivoted, saw a tall silhouette at the wood's fringe. Crossbow cranked, bolt already knocked. The figure loosed. Ned ducked. Behind him a Royce squire crumpled with squeal like a hare. Ned sprinted, sword raised. The shape retreated nimble as cat. Ned pursued between trees. Branches lashed his face. Moonlight sliced through canopy, silvering leaf litter. He caught sight again. A woman, slim, hair streaming dark. A cell or spy. A twig snapped behind. Ned spun, blade driving upward on instinct.
Steel met steel in ringing clash.
Sparks lit a thin face, pale eyes hollow. Lord Stark, whispered the man, lips curling. Ned recognized him too late. Ramsay Snow, Bolton's bastard, sent as observer. Ramsay wrenched a short sword from belt, lunged low. Ned sidestepped, riposted, slicing leather cuirass. Blood spurted black. Ramsay snarled, dropped a smoke pot that burst acrid plume. Ned's lungs seared, sight blurred. Through haze he saw Ramsay slipping into shadows, clutching wound but laughing, soft, delighted. Hoofbeats thundered. Blackfish burst into clearing with 4 Vale Lancers. The clansmen melted away, whistling retreat calls. The skirmish ended as quick as it began, leaving 8 dead, twice that wounded. Bolton riders arrived last, Ser Clay expressing shock, claiming his men had been cut off by falling trees. Royce's contempt crackled in the air, but evidence was smoke already rising. At dawn they buried dead beneath cairns of shale.
Ned confronted Ser Clay privately.
The Bolton knight met accusations with milky gaze. "We fought as we could," he said. "Perhaps your memory fogs with age." Ned's hand twitched toward hilt but steadied. Steel words now would break alliance needed. Instead, he demanded Bolton men ride in rear guard henceforth, eyes upon them always. Ser Clay bowed with a thin smile. The column limped onward through days of spitting rain. Every mile Ned felt the dagger of betrayal nick deeper. Arryn's warning in dream echoed, "Close what doors you can." Some doors wore flayed skins for curtains, and closing them might require fire. On the 10th day they reached the ruin of Summerhall. Blackened stones half swallowed by ivy, ghosts of Targaryen revel long extinguished. Here Stannis' outriders met them, heavy in scallop scale plate branded with fiery hearts. They guided the party southeast to join Roose Bolton's van across Blueburn bridges. But news came grim. Lord Roose had pressed ahead without waiting, taking 2,000 foot across a swollen stream. He had mistimed the ford. A sudden flash flood tore half his column downstream. Survivors said mummers under Vargo Hoat attacked mid-chaos, hacking drowning men. Bolton escaped with vanguard intact, but suspicion spread like rot. Ned rode hard to catch Roose, finding him on a ridge above carts of wounded, face emotionless behind pale eyes. "Ill luck," Roose murmured. "One cannot leash rivers. One can choose not to wade knee-deep during downpour," Ned retorted. "You risked men needed for the flank." Roose's thin lips twitched. "Men are blades. Some will break." He inspected his clean fingernails. "Better break now than upon Harrenhal's anvil." Ned felt heat rise, but he mastered it. "You ride under Stark banner. See it honored." He turned away, fearing honor might make him strike his own bannerman. Blackfish approached later, voice low. "Bolton bleeds us one slice at a time. Wolves may need bite their own to save the pack." Ned answered only with silence, unwilling to contemplate civil blood before lions fell. Near Storm's End Gulltown crossroads they linked with Stannis' vanguard, 4,000 Stormlander pikemen and a train of rickety trebuchets. Davos met Ned with weather-creased grin. "Your oath travels swifter than ravens," he said, raising Ned's hand high for storm-swept men to cheer. Yet cheers dulled when they saw Bolton banners trailing. A council formed that night beneath flap of greased canvas pavilion. Rain drummed, thunder muttered. Stannis stood in mail streaked by road mud. Melisandre hovered like flame-tipped shadow. Davos, Selmy, the Blackfish, and Ned circled a floor map pegged with pinecone markers. "Renly camps at Tumbleton," Davos reported. 30,000 swords, half greenbowies wearing Tyrell rose. Stannis tapped a marker. "He will slouch to Bitterbridge, link with Mace Tyrell. If we intercept at Wendwater Crossing, we may parley or shatter them piecemeal. Or drive them south," Selmy suggested. "Then circle River Road to King's Landing before Tywin rallies." "Tywin marches already," Ned warned, relaying scouts. Gold Lions turning east from Harrenhal, Jaime mustering every cell sail along Blackwater. "If he joins with Cersei before our siege begins, walls may spout wildfire." Stannis' jaw clenched. "We strike Renly first, else he stabs back when we face lions." He wheeled on Ned, eyes like winter sky. "You know this, Stark. Brothers must prove who leads." Ned's heart sagged. "Robert's ghost weeps." He pointed to the map. "Renly camps near Kingswood, a day's ride from Storm's End. Grant me safe pass to treat once more. If he yields, our numbers double." Stannis scoffed, but Davos said, "Let the wolf speak with the stag." Renly loved Ned near as Robert. Melisandre's ruby glowed. "Do not barter with shadows. The Lord of Light crowns only one." Stannis studied Ned. "Go. Dawn tomorrow. Take no more than 3 companions." Ned inclined head. Blackfish volunteered. Hallis insisted, though wounded. Ser Barristan, recently sworn to Stannis, requested to ride as well. They set out at first gray. Mist curled low along river flats, dew glimmering like quicksilver on grass. As sun edged horizon, a green wall of tents emerged, Tyrell pennants drooping wet. Horns sounded. A mounted guard intercepted. They recognized the Blackfish and escorted the party. Renly's great pavilion resembled a field castle of striped green silk, topped by golden antlers. Inside, Renly sat upon a cushioned camp throne, hair unkempt but smile easy. Ser Loras stood behind, helm plumed, hand upon decorated long sword. Renly rose, arms wide. Ned, I had feared Cersei fed you to rats. I've tread darker halls, Ned answered, still astride. I come to offer truce. Stannis holds rightful claim by council vote. Bend the knee, ride with us. The Lannisters fall together. Renly's smile thinned. A council stacked by ravens pecking scraps from Arryn's corpse? I hold the reach, grain, gold, and hearts. What has Stannis? A smuggler and a witch.
Se barristans jau setembre.
You shame Robert's memory. Renly spread palms. Robert loved life, not grim sermons. These men behind me laugh louder than any at Storm's End. That matters. He leaned forward. You once told me rifts heal by feast fires. Come, sup tonight. Let Tyrell cooks remind you what loyalty tastes like.
Ned dismonted, mod splattering boots.
Feasts cannot fill graves. If you will not bend, at least stand aside. Let us pass, strike King's Landing. When lion roars die, choose the crown in peace. Renly's eyes hardened, green glass catching dawn. While Stannis plants black sigils on Red Keep's walls. I think not. He strode closer, voice soft. Robert named me heir once, in wine perhaps, but he meant it. I will not wear my brother's cast-off cloak when sun fits my shoulders. Ned felt weight of years between them. Renly still a boy playing at knightly tourney, but 25,000 swords argued otherwise. Then battle decides, he said. Battle under banners bright, Renly replied. Not under smoky torches of R'hllor. They parted coldly. Outside, Loras Tyrell rode alongside the Blackfish, murmuring threat and regret in equal measure. Ned's small party returned through Tyrell lines heavy with jesting songs. The smell of honey roasted bore thick as flies. Crossing back into Misted Meadow felt like stepping from summer feast into crypt. Hallis broke silence. No peace, then.
No, Ned whispered.
Only graves. That night, the Storm Coast boiled with tension. Stannis arrayed his vanguard for dawn march, trebuchets trundling through muddy ruts. In Ned's tent, he and the Blackfish pored over last-minute maps by lantern while Hallis stitched a new direwolf pennon ragged from ambush. Outside, muffled hoofbeats thudded, sentinels pacing. Then wind carried a distant roar, thousands of voices cheering. Ned stepped to the flap. Across the valley, Renly's camp lights flickered like a city of fireflies, and above rose thunderous acclaim. Torches outlined a central pavilion. Suddenly cheers cut short, as if a blade sliced sound. Silence fell so heavy the surf seemed to hush. Lanterns guttered, their glow swallowed by a thick, creeping darkness pooling along ground.
Ned squinted.
The night beyond Renly's camp rippled, shadows slithering where no torch burned. A chill lifted the hair along his arms. Then screams tore across the valley, single, high, joined by dozens. Shapes flitted between tents, snuffing fires. A bloom of green light erupted, wildfire jar hurled into air, then smothered under squall of blackness. Ned felt the same unnatural cold he'd sensed when Bran lay between life and death. He heard the Blackfish whisper, "Seven save us." The darkness receded as swift as it came, leaving sputtering torch clusters. Distant horns blared confusion. Ned watched, heart hammering, until dawn gray crept, revealing Renly's pavilion collapsed, soldiers milling. A Tyrell rider galloped toward Stannis' line, waving a white cloth. He arrived breathless, helm askew, eyes wide. "King Renly is dead," he shouted. Assassins' shadows struck in black night. Lord Tyrell withdraws. The camp breaks. Stannis' men erupted in raucous cries, part triumph, part terror. Melisandre stood at ridge crest, hair whipping in wind, ruby blazing as though it drank the newly risen sun. Ned's knees felt water. He remembered the shadow on the wall of Storm's End the night before their departure. Tall, gaunt, crown of smoke upon its brow. Davos had spoken of smuggled sorceries in whispers. Now the realm lost another king, not by sword but something older. He stalked to Stannis' command tent. Davos blocked the entrance, face torn between duty and shame. "It wasn't him," Davos said softly. "Not the man. The Red Woman. Where is she?" Ned demanded. "Gone to pray. She says the way is cleared." Ned pushed past into the tent. Stannis stood alone over table, fists planted. "You murdered your brother," Ned said, voice raw. "He would not yield," Stannis answered without looking up. "The realm cannot afford two kings. I am the fire's champion. The darkness swallowed him." "Darkness you unleashed," Ned shot back. "When men trade honor for crowns, kingdoms crumble." Stannis lifted eyes icy as dawn. "Save your sermons for septons. Renly's army scatters. The road to King's Landing opens. March with me or step aside." Ned's sword hand trembled. He thought of Robert, of Jon Arryn's lesson. The realm before the Lord. But what realm thrived beneath sorcery's night? He drew breath. "I will march," he said at length, "as I must until lions fall. But mark me. When throne is yours, shadows must end or wolves will howl for your crown as loudly as for Joffrey's."
Stannis mout bent in grimace.
"We will speak again once Dragonfire gutters." Tyrell banners vanished south by midday. Half Renly's stormlords bent knee to Stannis in fear and grief. The rest fled toward Bitterbridge. Stannis's host doubled, yet morale quivered. Bolton's men whispered of demon kings. Dreadfort riders touched flayed man sigils for luck. On the ridge Ned found the Blackfish cleaning sword. "A king dies in darkness, his army scatters. Another king marches with witch fire at back," Brynden said. "So many doors open we can't close them all." "We close what we can," Ned answered, Jon Arryn's dream echoing like heartbeat. "But some storms we must simply ride through." He gazed toward the distant gleam of the capital's walls, barely visible on horizon. A pale crown waiting to be bloodied. Somewhere inside those walls Sansa prayed. Varys whispered, Cersei schemed, Tyrion measured wildfire stalks, and Jaime ran a whetstone along Widowmaker's steel. The tide of war rushed toward that shore now unhindered by green or gold roses. Ned touched the hilt of ice, no of memory, and whispered to the wind, "Honor, hold." Then he mounted, banners unfurled, and the storm marched. Wind drove fitful drifts of sand across the King's Road as the host of King Stannis Baratheon, augmented by river lords and northern spears, pushed northeast toward the Blackwater. Canvas banners snapped. The fiery heart of the Lord of Light, the dire wolf of Stark, the leaping trout of Tully, the silver falcon of Royce. Yet beneath those bright standards many eyes tracked the Red Woman who rode at Stannis' side, ruby at her throat pulsing faint emberglow even in daylight. Soldiers muttered that each beat of that stone kept time with Renly's stilled heart. Ned Stark kept the van with Ser Brynden and Ser Barristan. He rode often in silence, watching how the ranks shifted around Bolton's leech-red cloaks. Men gave them birth the way healthy sheep avoided a sick ram. Ramsay Snow himself had vanished after the ambush. Sent on scouting duty, Bolton claimed, but the bastard's absence felt like a trap sprung yet unresolved. On the third morning out of Storm's End, they crested a low rise and beheld the Blackwater rush glimmering far ahead, wending through marsh and scrub toward the city crouched on its far bank. King's Landing shimmered beneath early light. Walls pale cream, towers pink as seashells, domes and spires shining like tarnished copper. Above it rose the Red Keep, a dagger tip of red stone spearing morning sky. Ned's breath caught. There, beyond that mass of roofs, lived two of his daughters. He prayed Arya still evaded nets, and that Sansa's spirit had not broken beneath the Queen's cruel tutelage. Stannis drew rein beside him. From this height Aegon dreamed of crowns, he said, voice stripped of awe. I dream only of debt. The realm owes justice, the Lannisters owe blood. Ned studied the walls. Gold cloaks patrolled battlements. Siege crews were at work reinforcing hoardings. Great brass rams jutted over two gates, freshly sheathed in iron. Siege towers of raw pine climbed within the mud gate courtyard. They've prepared, Ned observed. Tyrion Lannister is no fool.
Falls die Stannis answert.
Our engines roll by dusk. Caliot of Lys charts the tides. Davos's smuggler fleet carries rams on barges. Bolton and Selmy hold the northern bank to harry relief. I will take the city before Lion and Rose can join. Ned's gaze slid to the ruby at Melisandre's throat. Take it with steel, not shadow. The priestess smiled, rain-red hair whipping. The Lord of Light gifts many swords. Some burn unseen. Stannis spurred on, company flowing after like iron filings drawn to lodestone. Ned remained until only Hallis Mullen lingered. Do shadows ride tonight? Hallis asked. Ned flexed gloved fingers. If they do, keep torches high. Within the Red Keep, Queen and Dwarf stood at a window in the Tower of the Hand, studying the distant line of standards. Soot from the city's forges drifted past like black snow. Your fireships will burn half the river, Cersei said, voice low and edged. Tyrion sipped sour wine. Half does nicely if Stannis sails down the wrong half. He tilted the goblet. Wildfire stores wait below the city. Your pyromancers swear 10,000 pots stand ready. Pyromancers swear many things, the queen replied. They swore my brother would live forever. Tyrion shrugged, eyes on the host creeping closer. Jaime lives still, though he'd trade a few years for daylight beyond these walls. He dropped the curtain. Stannis camps by nightfall. When he does, we send a boat under truce. Offer parley while my little friends finalize surprises under the gate of the gods. Cersei's gaze sharpened. And if he declines? Tyrion touched his scar. Then pray the 7 favor bastards and broken things. She turned away. The gods favor the strong. Her gown brushed stone. See the small folk kept behind walls. If they flee, they'll clog the fields and our catapults will kill our own. And Sansa? Cersei turned back, lips curling. She sings to Joff every night now. He likes that. She stays where she is. Tyrion watched her depart with a sigh and set his goblet down harder than intended. Sansa Stark knelt in the Queen's solar, brushing tangles from Myrcella's hair while the princess recited high Valyrian declensions. The window behind them framed smoke plumes. Sansa breathed soot and rose oil, hands steady though heart fluttered like trapped bird.
Myrcella mi conjugated a verbe, Sansa corrected softly.
The girl smiled, gratitude edged with fear. News of Renly's death had reached even Myrcella's sunny world. She whispered that shadows came for kings. When lesson ended, Sansa returned to her chamber beneath Maidenvault rafters. A septa waited by the door, but guards allowed Sansa to bolt the heavy cedar panel. She crossed the floor, knelt beside a loose tile beneath her bed, and lifted it with care. There lay a scrap of parchment, left at dawn by a servant girl whose eyes never met hers. For words only, wolves near. Wait. The ink blurred where a droplet of wax had dried. Sansa pressed the note to her chest. She thought of father's voice, Arya's laugh, Bran's dreams. She closed her eyes and prayed to the stranger to keep her brave. Beyond the mud gate, Stannis' engineers raised earthen ramparts, driven by fire-whip commands of Antigonus of Volantis, a broad-bellied cell-sail with nose like chipped granite. Siege towers 8 stories tall crawled toward walls, their hides of green-painted pine bristling scorpion nests. Catapults anchored in mud pits flung granite and beehive crates against hoardings. Stones thundered on ramparts, pots of pitch burst, flaming bees buzzed and stung faces before dying in sparks. On the northern bank, Ned oversaw trenchworks ringed by stakes. Brynden directed river archers harrying ferrymen bringing supplies from the Westerlands. Flayedman banners erected within the line of works displeased Ned, but Bolton's pikemen dug the deepest ditches, their discipline impeccable. Ramsay still absent, Roose moved like a wraith through camp, never raising voice, but his men followed every sidelong glance. Ser Barristan commanded a cavalry screen fanning across fields between City and Lannister Road. At dusk his outriders galloped in bearing tidings. Tywin marched from Harrenhal under moonless sky. For leagues out, host perhaps 18,000. Ned summoned Stannis and Davos to a rough wooden map table inside his command tent. Stannis absorbed the news without visible concern. He is heavy with wagons. We hold the river. He must either force a ford north of the city or join the gold cloaks across the long bridge. Bolton's trenches bar that path. Tywin will flank us north, leaving the city to our siege. Let him. Davos tapped the map. He may try the King's Road bridge at the headwaters. If he loops behind, he cuts our line of retreat. Stannis's jaw set. I do not retreat. Ned caught Davos's eye. Wise generals plan for after victory too, your grace. We can spare Bryndon's archers and half our northern spears to shadow Tywin, harass supply lines. He pointed. Here, the burned barns near Sow's Horn. Fields unfit for foraging. We scorch more, deny feed. Stannis nodded curt approval. Do it. He stepped outside into night breeze, Melisandre gliding behind. Her voice carried soft as ember crackle. Smoke and salt go with you. Shadow waits for final breath. Ned shivered despite warm air. Tyrion's parley boat slid beneath Stannis's flagship banner at midday 2 days into siege. The imp arrived clad in scaled crimson leather, helm plumed with badger fur, Tyrion Lannister's one-handed warhorn dangling from belt. Ned met him on the rampart edge, Ser Davos and Ser Barristan at his side. Tyrion eyed siege towers and catapults. You build impressive toys. Tell me, does the Red Witch breathe fire on command or only at dawn? Davos bristled, but Ned raised hand. State your terms, Lord Tyrion. Terms? I bring you gifts. Barrels of arbor wine, a fine harp, and my nephew's head if you truly think it bastard. In return you leave our walls unblemished. We'll even throw in 10,000 crowns to repair the dent. Stannis snorted behind Ned. Tyrion's gaze slid to him. Ah, the lord of correct punctuation. I'd bow, but these docks are slimy. His smile faded. Listen, you've one chance. Sail away. War ends. We call a council, weigh this incest claptrap like grown men. Or keep flinging stones until one scatters wildfire and we all roast. Ned heard sincerity beneath mockery. Tyrion feared wildfire stalks even he barely controlled. But Stannis stepped forward. The realm bleeds under lion's paw. I will carve it free and cauterize the wound. Tell your sister. Tomorrow I break the city. Tyrion's shoulders lifted, then dropped. Very well. I trust you'll find the city combustible. He bowed to Ned. If you survive, remember our inn at Winterfell. Good beer that night. He departed, cloak snapping like a torn page. As oars rowed him back, Ned wondered if this parley was truly meant to negotiate or to measure range of catapults. Either way, tomorrow dawn promised blood. That night Arya crouched in the ruins of a potter's shed within Flea Bottom. Candlelight flickered between boards, illuminating crimson script scratched on a wall. Strange looping letters older than the Seven. Yoren of the Night's Watch lay fevered on straw beside her, wound crusted black. He had smuggled her this far in boy disguise, but a gold-cloaked spear found his side 3 days past. Arya wiped sweat from his head with dirty rag. Keep still, she whispered. Outside, small folk hurried with sacks to the river, chasing rumor of boats across to Stannis's lines. Rumors Tyrion allowed to loosen crowds, hoping they drown trying. Yoren's cracked lips moved. Water. Arya pressed canteen. His eyes fluttered. Run, child. Wolves near. Find door. I'll find it tomorrow, she said. After sun. Tomorrow she meant to slip out among dead from first assault. She touched Needle's hilt beneath ragged tunic and pictured home. Dawn smeared the sky pewter. A hush settled across camps and walls before horns answered horns, crested by the boom of the Baratheon war drums. Siege towers lurched forward, wheels half buried in mud, winches groaning. Ned rode the line, voice hoarse but steady. Shields up, spare arrows, wait the bridges. Behind walls Tyrion directed scorpions and crane poles to drop heavy chains across river mouth. Potboys shuffled wildfire jars to furnace ramps built inside hoardings. First assault came under cover of low tide. Davos's barges rode from upriver, towing floating rams, snub-nosed barges sheathed in boiled leather. Crossbow bolts clacked from walls. Archers on barges answered in black-fletched hail. One wildfire pot struck the lead ram. Green flame erupted with shriek. Sailors dove as emerald tongues licked river, but leather soaked in brine smothered some. The ram crashed against mud gate, iron cap rending outer doors. Lannister spears thrust through murder holes. Rammers locked shields, heaving, chanting Stannis, Stannis. Catapults behind flung stones over walls. Ned saw one strike a tower's parapet, splintering merlons like rotten teeth. A second rock shattered on the gate of the gods, iron studs crackling. Siege towers closed, drawbridges dropped with clang, and stormed hemp ladders rattled up. Ned forced himself into fray near the breastwork where Bolton pikes formed wedge. A wall sally poured out, gold cloaks led by Sandor Clegane in soot-black mail. The hound's greatsword cleaved pike shafts. Men died screaming. Ned spurred forward, ice in hands at last. Brynden had freed the Stark greatsword from vault of Riverrun smithy. Even dulled by years it sang. He met the hound amid churned mud and bodies. Steel rang. Sparks flew like fireflies. Clegane's brute strength hammered. Ned parried, stepped, riposted. On third exchange he slid edge along the hound's guard, carving shoulder to collar. Blood sprayed. Clegane roared, kicked a fallen shield into Ned's knee. Ned stumbled. Hallis lunged, spear biting the hound's thigh. Clegane snarled and withdrew under cover of a burning haycart pushed by gold cloaks. By noon smoke cloaked river and field. 3 siege towers stood ablaze. 2 more loomed at walls disgorging men. Atop King's Gate a direwolf banner fluttered where Stark spears had mounted ramparts for near an hour before wildfire burst underfoot, incinerating the platform and every man on it. Stannis commanded from a trebuchet rise, sword raised. Melisandre beside him lifted flaming torch and cried words in Valyrian tongue. Bolts of orange light seemed to writhe around her. Archers faltered staring. Some knelt. Ned saw fear threaten discipline. He rode to the platform. "Sheathe your sorceries," he told the priestess. "Men fight by will, not witchlight." She inclined head. "Witchlight wakes will to flame. Flame burns both ways," Ned replied, then wheeled to rally archers. They resumed volley as Melisandre's torch sank. Afternoon tide turned. Tyrion's long-prepared chain swept across river mouth, raised by hidden capstans. Davos's second wave, longships packed with stormlanders, rode directly into it. The chain surged from water, hulls splintered. Men thrown into boiling green wildfire poured from catapults along walls. River ignited. A wall of emerald flame roared downwind. Ned watched aghast as hundreds burned alive, screams engulfed by crackle. Davos's flagship Black Betha pivoted, oars shattering against trapped wrecks. The ship caught fire, mast bursting like torch. Ned glimpsed Davos tumbling over rail into water alive with fire. The tide of battle reversed. Stannis' ships burned, and the fire spread to barges pressed against Mud Gate. Gate timbers charred but held, soaked earlier by Lannister crews. Siege towers toppled as ropes burned. Stannis ordered retreat to shore ramparts. Under dusk light Tywin's vanguard banners appeared on far ridges. The Red Lion, the flaming son of Lord Garland Tyrell, who had abandoned Renly when news of his death reached Bitterbridge. Allied at last, Lion and Rose marched to relieve the city. Ned conferred with Stannis and Brynden beneath a charred oak. "We cannot fight 2 fronts," he said. Bolton stood nearby, eyes unreadable. "Pull back to the North Bank fortifications, hold until night, then withdraw across Trident Forks. Tywin will not pursue into swamp under dark." Stannis' face carved stone. "I will not flee twice in a generation. Live to fight," Brynden growled. "Else shadow sits the throne whether lion or stag." Stannis looked to Melisandre. Her nod was slight. "Very well. Nightfall." He stalked away, cloak tattered. Bolton's men began dismantling field works with eerie speed. Prepared long before order, Ned thought grimly. Night descended, smothering moans of dying. Ned directed withdrawal in disciplined cohorts. But as rear guard formed, horns blared from Bolton lines. Not Stannis' calls, but a shrill triple note. Bolton infantry turned pikes inward, catching Stark spearmen between trenches. Torches flared, revealing flayed man banners facing Wolf and Trout. Ramsay Snow rode atop a black courser, wound healed, smile mad bright. "By command of the new Warden of the North," he bellowed, "yield Lord Stark to our mercy and live. Resist and be flayed." Chaos erupted. Some Riverlanders broke, fleeing toward woods. Royce falcons held shield wall, but bolted deep by sudden arrows from behind. Mountain clansmen allied with Ramsay rushed across trenches. Hallis Malin tried to charge Ramsay. A crossbow bolt struck his throat. He fell clutching the direwolf standard, blood spurting. Ned knelt beside him, but Hallis pushed the banner into his hands before dying. Bolton's betrayal cut through camp like hot iron through butter. Stannis's main body already fallen back toward ferry staging. Smoke and darkness masked the treason. Brynden gathered a knot of Northmen, shouting to Ned. Together they forced a wedge through gap in ranks, breaking free toward marsh reeds. Ramsay pursued, laughter carrying. Ned led 20 survivors into flooded gullies where reeds rose taller than men. Behind, fires cast orange pillars. Moon half-hidden glinted on waterskins. Wolf standard drooped. Brynden splashed up, breath ragged. "We lost Barris Tan," he panted. "We'll lose more if Dawn finds us here." Ned's mind raced. "We crossed the Blackwater above the split. Marsh channels too narrow for horse. Southside woods hide paths to Storm's Drum. From there, send ravens to Robb and Stannis both. Warn them Bolton betrayed." Brynden nodded. They set off through thigh-deep mire, silence broken only by frogs and distant screams. In King's Landing, Tyrion leaned on battlement, face blackened with soot, eyes watering from wildfire smoke that still drifted across river. He had taken an axe wound to shoulder repelling a sally by Lord Mandon Moore. The Kingsguard knight turned on him mid-charge. Podrick Payne skewered Moore from behind, saving Tyrion's life, though the boy shook for hours after. Now Tyrion watched shadowy Cam. P.S. burn and break. He saw Bolton banners join Gold Lions, though confused crossfire still raged along lines. Something snapped inside him. Fear spent, pity hollow. He simply stared, wondering what debt he now owed fate. Cersei appeared, cheeks streaked with tears and ash, Joffrey clinging to her cloak. "It's over," she whispered. "Nothing's over," Tyrion replied. "It just begins anew." Sansa heard bells toll victory, then shrieks from wounded carried through alleys. She slipped from chamber onto shadowed balcony, looked east where river burned green. Suddenly northeast sky lit red, torches perhaps, or siege camps aflame. Yet within the glow she imagined a great white direwolf howling, eyes bright as moon, promising he still hunted. She touched the balcony rail and whispered, "I am a wolf," letting ash-flaked wind carry the words south across firelit water. What remained of Ned's party reached Forest Hut by dawn, feet blistered, armor caked in black mud. Brynden fell to one knee. A hill tribe's arrow protruded shallow from thigh. 2 Northmen collapsed asleep where they stood. Ned bound wounds, set watches. Inside Hut he unrolled errand parchments, still dry, ink intact. He dipped quill and wrote by guttering lamp. "Robb Roose Bolton betrayed, allied with Lannisters. We hold swamp near Blackwater. Send swift riders to Riverrun, secure mother. Trust only those whose hearts you know. Honor alone will not save throne. Caution must ride with courage. Father." He sealed it with wax pressed by Hallis's bloodied ring. Then he penned shorter letters to Stannis and Davos, warnings of treason, of Bolton's crossing lines, of Tywin's arrival, and one to King's Landing for Sansa, though uncertain how it might pass gates. When first Raven launched into blue-gray sky, Ned allowed himself to sag against wall. Outside, morning wind carried faint distant roar. Chanting of victors, weeping of vanquished, crackle of fires still consuming the battlefield. A realm balanced upon edges of broken swords. Brynden limped in, handing him a waterskin. "We live," the Blackfish said. "For now." Ned drank, water tasting of smoke and reeds. He recalled Jon Arryn's dream of open cells and unfinished labors. Doors swung before him still, some now barred by bolts of betrayal, some yet ajar. One opened west toward Robb, one south toward Sansa, one back to winterbound north where Bran watched skies. He must close each in turn, even if it cost last strength. He looked at the direwolf banner folded nearby, mud and blood crusting 9-pointed rents. Carefully he lifted it, shook free clots, and draped it across doorframe where dawn could paint the gray wolf silver. Outside reeds hissed like distant applause. "Honor," he whispered, and the banner stirred as though nodding. Back in King's Landing, Tyrion limped into Tower of the Hand, Podrick steadying. Maester Franken stitched his shoulder. Shay sat by bed, fear shining. Tyrion closed eyes, yet visions throbbed. Wildfire dancing, Bolton betrayal, shadows on wall. Realm had bent but not broken. Tomorrow politics resumed. He muttered, "Small council meeting early. I'll need new hands helm." Shay frowned. He squeezed her fingers. Heads remain upon neck only if used. Sleep claimed him, heavy as stone. South, Balon Greyjoy learned of Stannis' failure and Bolton's turn. He called his captains to Pike's Sea Tower, salt spray lashing basalt. "North ripe," he growled. "Starks bleed south. We take Moat Cailin, Deepwood, Winterfell." Theon, newly returned hostage, smiled, thinking of Sister Asha's scorn and chance to prove worth. Far across the narrow sea, Daenerys Targaryen stood atop Meereen's great pyramid, dragons on shoulders, reading a parchment from Westeros telling of kings' deaths and burning rivers. She turned to Ser Jorah. "When two kings die by shadows and dragons stir, prophecy stirs quicker. Ready the ships." Her dragons cried shrill over bay. In the smoky hut, Ned watched ravens vanish into sun-streaked sky. He felt weight of years, of war, of choice, but also ember of hope. Thin, stubborn, unwilling to gutter. The war was not won, nor truth fully bared. Yet shadows had not devoured them all. Even darkest night retains stars. He reached for ice, laid blade across knees, and whispered names of children as prayer. Outside trees sighed, river hissed remnant steam, and far off, bells tolled again. Mournful or triumphant, he could not tell. The story of wolves and lions, of stags and dragons, of shadows and honor, turned another page as sun mounted, bright enough to reveal scars yet not strong enough to blind eyes that still chose to see. And on that new page, Ned Stark swore quietly that whatever banners burned, whatever kings rose or fell, the last lines written in blood and steel would speak truth. Not for lords, not for gods, but for the realm Jon Arryn had loved and Robert Baratheon had once dreamed might be better than the men who ruled it.